getting it now. And this is June. We were told that about this time, and I know there was a lot of speculation. Will we actually be able to get the second dose? Whereby we're still working with under 1 million people from the first dose having been vaccinated. Way less than 10%. Probably looking at about 2% of the population having been vaccinated so far. In terms of vaccine rollout, we're doing very, very poorly. Let's just call a spade a spade. Very, very poorly. And the number of people that should have been vaccinated, it is not happening. It is not happening. And I think that there are lots of promises, there's a lot of plans, but in terms of action, it cannot be that 6 months down the line, less than 1 million people have been vaccinated. And all you get in terms of a dose is promises and plans. It has not happened.
And donations. It's basically our government still doing what it has done for many years on the healthcare front. It is expecting the healthcare of its citizenry to be externally supported. If there's no donor who gives you some vaccine that's about to expire in 2 days, then you have no access to vaccines.
Or you have no option.
Yeah.
And I keep saying, the situation in which the most vulnerable in society have not been cared for, that is actually the state of the nation.
Yep.
That's the state. Don't talk about people who can pay 10,000 shillings to get Sputnik, this or that. The people who are the most vulnerable, the poorest, that is actually the face of the nation. If you're looking at it health-wise, that's what you have. People don't have access to vaccination. People don't know where to go. That's what your state of health is.
Keep it right here for these and more conversations. Let's take a break at 16 and a half minutes past 6 a.m. We are live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Wherever you are tuned in, we see you and we'll be saying hello to you shortly if you say hello to us first. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
SpiceFM Nyeri.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. The weather with Spice FM.
Okay, Nairobi, mostly cloudy this morning at 14. We'll see highs of 23 today and lows of 12. Cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 13 with highs of 22. Clear conditions in Nakuru this Monday morning at 14, highs of 25 and lows of 13. 25 will be the high in Eldoret. It's clear currently at 9. 19 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 18. Kakamega is partly cloudy at 15, highs of 29 and lows of 14. 30 will be the high in Mombasa today. It's partly cloudy at 24. Clear conditions in Malindi at 27. We'll go to highs of 29 and lows of 25. Declaring Kampala at 19, highs of 26 and lows of 18. 31 the high in a mostly cloudy Dar es Salaam this morning. We'll see 23 at the moment, lows of 24 later. It's a foggy morning in Johannesburg at 5. The winter has set in. We'll see highs of just 14 and lows of 4. Lagos is cloudy at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And it's mostly clear in Kinshasa at 23. Go to highs of 33 today and back down to lows of 24. Sunny conditions in Beijing at 28 with highs of just that and lows of 19. It's clear in Paris at 13 with highs of 24. Clear conditions in London as well at 16. They go to highs of 23 today. Sunday night is 25 degrees and clear conditions in New York. Coming into Monday morning, we're likely to see highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
You cannot turn the wind.
So, turn the sail.
You cannot what?
You cannot turn the wind.
Right.
So, turn the sail.
You cannot turn the wind, so turn the sail. Yep. Deal with what you can deal with.
Yep. First of all, recognize it. Know it for what it is, and then do something about it.
Okay. Nice
It's
one.
like worrying that it's raining. It's raining.
Deal with it.
So
Yes.
either stay indoors or put up an umbrella.
I think we are on the same page.
Yeah.
Voila.
Deal with it. Okay. So then, let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. What we have in the papers this Monday morning.
Coming off from what we're just talking about with regards to the vaccine, an article that caught my eye in the Star, page 2. I need to read this thing for you to tell me if you understand it. Okay?
Okay.
I understand bits of it. The bits I really don't get.
Okay.
AstraZeneca doses for second jab only, MOH. Okay?
Say again.
Headline.
Say again.
AstraZeneca doses for second jab only, MOH.
Okay.
Headline. Okay. The government will deploy all incoming AstraZeneca vaccine doses towards administering the second dose.
Okay.
Okay? Will. Future. The health ministry expects to receive additional doses of the vaccine this and next week, with the latest donation of 358,700 doses coming from the Danish government. Full stop. Data from the ministry shows, now this one is what got me confused, that as at Saturday, a total of 6,622 people had received their second doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Okay.
The Danish one is coming, but this has happened.
Yep.
From the number, 4,046 are healthcare workers, 321 are security officers, 445 are teachers, 709 are people aged above 58 years. While, yes, I haven't got the second dose, while 1,101 are members of the public.
Wananchi wa kawaida. Okay.
Yes.
Others.
Yeah,
Yes.
others. Miscellaneous.
Right.
Okay. On the other hand, 975,265 people have so far been reached with the vaccine. Total, 119 are healthcare workers, 153,089 are teachers, 82,720 are security officers, 295,486 are people aged above 58, while 277,000 are members of the public.
Okay. Where's the confusion?
These people who've got the second dose,
Remember, there was some donation that came from South Sudan.
DRC.
DRC didn't materialize. Something happened.
Okay, let's take.
Then there was South Sudan.
Yes, the ones which are about to expire.
All of them are just because they're about to expire.
And they're not being used, quite simply.
Yep.
Yeah, so there are people who've received the. What I'm finding surprising in this reporting is precisely that. The understanding is that people should be getting the first dose. This figure of 6,000, in my mind, shouldn't exist. That is my confusion.
Oh, okay. So, in your opinion, any new vaccine that lands in the country should continue to give out people for the first dose?
Yes.
And now, those of you who received the first dose and you've already done your 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, how much longer do you want to wait?
The category that falls, the people fall into that category were not able to consume all the vaccines that we got the first time, according to the report that we got. Because remember, there were some which kept remaining. We didn't hear that story anymore. But my contention was, rest assured, it's not as though they haven't been used. It's just that they haven't been reported. That was my view. So now, this 6,000 is beginning to lend credence to what I was saying earlier on. That there are people who got the second dose even before.
From the batch of the first dose.
Yes, even before South Sudan came in and DRC were telling us things. That has been my contention all along. So when you're told are the vaccines remaining unused, and yet there are people who know very well that they need a second dose, they will get that second dose.
Okay. Ndu,
Yes.
do you agree with Citi that any new dose that arrives, any new vaccine that arrives in the country, now there's this one coming from Denmark, you shouldn't receive your second dose. It should now go to somebody else who has not yet received the first dose.
No, see, the thing is, unfortunately, you're dealing with timing in this thing. And you're also still dealing with a huge vulnerable set in society. And I think those should be taken care of first. Before you even start going to second dose for whomever, you've received your first line. You should try and give the first to as many people as possible. You should. I don't think, especially in the situation that we're dealing with, try and vaccinate as many people as possible. There are people who will come and get the second, and there are those who have not even gotten the first. I think you should increase the number for sure.
You know, if we go by the pattern that many countries have followed, they look at these vulnerable groups as in terms of age, pre-existing conditions, and so forth, and they want to ensure that these people get their first and second dose. More so those who advance in years. I've seen it happen, and it makes perfect sense. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the spread of COVID, and now the spread isn't even the problem. It's the mutation that is the problem. Because you then get viruses that are not only virulent, they spread. I mean, anything negative that you could think of it, the mutations have. They are faster in terms of spreading, faster in terms of killing you, faster.
More virulent symptoms.
So, and you have to step back and ask, okay, what is the situation that brings about this mutation and makes it so powerful? So long as people keep mingling and there is no barrier to sort of like halt that forward march, and the halting of the forward march and the barrier here is actually the vaccine, okay? Now, there are those who will argue, correctly so, I believe, that there is a certain time space within which you must get your second dose. I understand that. But what I also understand is that the timeline we were first given has changed. You know why? With time they've realized, you know something?
You can go as far as, what was it, 6 months or 3 months or something?
Yes.
12 weeks.
Yes.
12 weeks, and then they push it to 16 weeks. So looking about 4 months.
Yes. So I am saying that, and the argument is that the longer the hiatus, the better the vaccine actually works in your system. Now, if that is the case, and it's been proven to be true, then the people who got their first dose have not gotten to the 3-month threshold or the 4-month threshold or the 6-month threshold.
They've done the 3.
Some haven't.
Yeah, some haven't.
The ones who got at the tail end haven't, okay? But 4, 5, 6 months, they haven't. So why don't we give some other people that fighting chance also? That really is my argument. I got the first dose. Yes. The time they told me, remember, that one lapsed, they told me, it's okay, you can push a little further. No, again, it's okay. Now, since it's still being okay, then I have another 3 more months to go. Now, in that time, can you not start giving people that 3 months that I already have? That's really what I'm asking.
Look, it's got to be. Look, I think this idea, we're just playing around with it here and saying, okay, can we just look at? No, there really needs to be a concerted effort to get vaccines in the country. It cannot be that for 6 months, because these talks started in December last year. And I'm just talking about to bring vaccines into the country. The conversation was happening on a global scale in September, October, in terms of, all right, this is going to be ready soon. And when Pfizer made that first announcement, we saw crowds in terms of countries around the world now starting to pull resources
Big
for themselves.
Countries hoarding.
Everybody was hoarding.
Yes.
And I keep saying at this point, what stops countries from making their interests known also in those places? Do it, because this is the result.
And I think that's what has happened. Actually, now, if you look at it, countries such as Kenya and others are the ones who have been pushing for that whole liberalization of access to the vaccine. And saying, you big countries have taken up these vaccines, you're hoarding the vaccines, and you need to share the vaccines with the rest of us. That's why America now, Biden has said, all right, so we're going to give out the 80 million doses. Other countries are doing the same. Denmark are looking and saying, okay, so we got these things, we have vaccinated our people, we can start donating. And Kenya is on the front line of those who can start receiving. So I think Kenya has done the job of positioning itself as one of the countries where, if we're talking about COVAX, more vaccines, 25 million from the states, Kenya is on the number one on the list. If you're talking about any country that has not used its vaccines and they're about to expire, Kenya is right there. It's done its job, because the part of saying that we can go and buy, lies.
It's not going to happen.
Lies. And it's not because Kenya does not have, it's not about even our money. It's because of our muscle. We do not have the muscle to go into that market and get for ourselves. So now, from that front, that's how I look at it. Now, the vaccines that start now coming for the second, the extra doses that are coming into the country, should they be continuing to vaccinate? Should we be looking at vaccinating more than the million people that we vaccinated with the first dose? Or should we also be looking at the first person who received, that's Dr. Amoth, should he now be receiving his second?
What makes you think he hasn't received? What makes you think he hasn't received?
He has. That's what I'm saying. Now, this is the point that I'm saying. Those people who received in the first week, let them get the second dose.
What makes you think he hasn't received the second one?
He did.
He did.
Yes. Good. He's already received his second dose. I mean, the whole issue of let's give the second dose is public. So obviously, you expect that among those people who received the first doses, first week,
I think I'm even more interested. I'm just more on. I'm not even right now who got first, who did not get second. I'm more interested in 1 million only. Under 1 million still is too low a number for this vaccine rollout. It is too low.
Yep.
It is too low.
And it's a global it's a world problem. And the world needs to look at that and say, we cannot continue living like this. This thing of America behaving like, they're just donating, and the other countries saying we are just donating. It should not be an issue of donation. It should be like, what's your population? You need X. Your population is 30 million people. You need to vaccinate 15 million. You only get 15 million. Any extra that you have, return to the market. So we just need to deal with this hoarding, I think, in my opinion. 6:30. Let's take a break, see how the roads are looking like this lovely Monday morning. So Ken, how on the highways over the weekend? Inspecting the road and traffic management plan. And I think they're coming up with some things. So we'll be looking at that shortly. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday? Cash, of course. What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads. Make some noise. Yeah! You're listening
the Southern
to
Bypass this
Spice FM.
morning, removing parts of an accident that happened last night. It was a fatal one and pretty bad. That's towards the exit at Langata, and they're trying to still clear that up. Unfortunately, a fatal accident that happened last night, and so we still see that it's causing some traffic as you're trying to get on the roads this morning, so watch out for that one. You can still use the Southern Bypass headed into the city, and then you get off at Langata Road exit. Langata Road is already slowing down, and we see this all the way from the Bomas Junction take you through past KWS and then out to the Timor roundabout. So it's actually not too bad, but it is slowing down considerably. Seen some traffic on Mombasa Road as well, coming from Cabanas towards General Motors and then out towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. That road is still yet to be opened completely. They're still working on it. They'll let us know. They'll give us the information as to when that will happen. In the meantime, use the alternate routes of going via Langata Road out towards Baghdadi Way or use Aerodrome Road. That's what you've been asked to do. Coming off of Thika Road into the CBD as well at the Pangani underpass, it's a bit slow. And then heading out towards Ngara, use the Wangari Maathai Road. It'll get you into the city quicker, even though it's longer. All right, tell us where you see anything that we should know about and we'll spread the word. Are you stuck somewhere? Let us know. Do you find an alternate route? Let us know that too. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
5 minutes
done
to
right.
7 o'clock.
9.
Continue looking at the headlines in the papers.
So, education schools resume today after half-term, and the national curriculum developer has revealed the list of new literature and fasci set books for secondary school and teacher training colleges. There's this whole, right now we're still looking at the issue of the now removal of the Bachelor of Education, right? And then looking at additional training that must take place. But then we still see, and I think this is one of the points that we were looking at last week, we still see that during the time, new set books are being developed, new training is being developed, which was what was happening anyway. And still the cry that, this degree course or this this degree course actually should not have been scrapped off. The Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development Friday called publishers whose entries won the tenders and issued them with letters to confirm the same. The institute has not yet issued an official circular to the effect. There are many books that those who had previously used them as set books now will change completely. So what people were used to and many people bought and then passed down essentially to other students will no longer be. And then we're now looking at the institute as well as publishers now starting to change the curriculum based on the fact that the curriculum itself is changing. And as we get now towards what will be grade 6, 7 and 8 further on, we'll see more and more of this, that the curriculum will change, that what people knew as set books, what you remember today as was a set book, now will cease to be.
It will be a what?
It will just be a piece of literature that you can walk into the library and use, but now the set books will change. What you were used to reading for history or such will no longer
Well, they'll have new books.
Yes, they'll have new books.
With new material.
Yep.
Okay.
Because the curriculum itself is changing. So those will be,
If they
these
can
are for
change it, for
schools
example, the
and
history
teacher
books.
colleges.
Change the history books, include more and more general history of Africa.
Sure.
Not just telling us about Mzilikazi from the point of when the Mzungu came and found Mzilikazi, or tell us a bit more about what the people of that part of the world were doing before. All right. But then there's also that issue that you mentioned, that they are, retiring B.Ed?
Yes.
Why?
This is the question. Why do that?
Join the debate.
Right. So essentially what's happening is that, so they're scrapping off that because they're saying that they want, I don't know what the new degree is going to be called.
No,
but it will be,
it's a Bachelor of Arts and then
and then you have 1 year of training.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So
Then
Bachelor
you go
of
for-
Arts, and then you go for a diploma.
Yes.
A postgraduate diploma.
In education.
In education.
Yes.
Yes.
Where is the evidence that this particular... Because what they're proposing was in existence before. Okay? And some thinking went into bringing this together to make it a Bachelor of Education degree. So, what is it? Even now, people who had just done a general degree were required to do a diploma. Now, unfortunately, diplomas of that nature do not take a year. 2 years. Diploma. You'd assume it's a year, isn't it? 2 years. So you want someone to spend 6 years of their lives acquiring this particular qualification when previously they could do it in 4.
But the thing that also we need to look at this as the curriculum continues to develop. I mean, just last week we saw that there are a bunch of teachers now who are going for this training. This is the thing, that you continue to have trainings that recur.
We used to call it in-service training.
Over time, right? So whatever it is that you're thinking you're going to be able to capture in this 2-year diploma, guess what? You still have to go ahead and continue to refresh your learning.
But it's even easier now, because previously it was during school holidays that someone would need to go to the learning institution to actually sit in a class and learn. But with online capacities, it's something you can do even after school. You heard my argument on this particular issue. I did not see the sense. I still don't see the sense. They can turn it and twist it in any which way. I still will not see the sense, because when you brought in the 844 system, okay, they didn't suddenly halt what was previously there. If you're talking content, why does the content of what you're supposed to teach suddenly bring about this need to change the way? Because you don't change the way you teach people, not really. Or are you saying that the 3 years somebody will be deeply steeped in the content of that of the particular preferred discipline, and then do an additional course in education? Why then don't you just ask, for instance, instead of saying that, why don't you raise the bar and say, okay, you do a Bachelor of Education, or then you do a Master's? Why don't you just say that then? So that you raise the bar for anybody who wants to be a teacher, and you say people who are going to teach must have a master's degree, because a Bachelor of Education presupposes precisely what they're suggesting right now. I honestly do not see the sense.
I don't get it.
Yeah, this we're looking.
Maybe there's something.
What does Fasihi mean?
Literature.
Fasihi, literature, right? Okay.
But with this will come the discussion of now the books that will facilitate this particular curriculum,
which is what they're unveiling right now. This is where this whole story came from.
It's going to be an issue. Guarantee. Because the problem with that
publishers will have issues.
The publishers will not have issues. Publishers just publish. It is which specific books will be part of that curriculum, because the books that are chosen will make somebody a very rich person.
Yep.
Very simply put.
We're looking at, let me just give you really quickly some of the things, right? So if you had heard of a novel, Fathers of Nations, right? That's just one example. A novel by Paul Vitta, published by the Oxford University Press, has been chosen as the English literature compulsory text. It will replace Blossoms of the Savannah. You knew of this? So Blossoms of the Savannah is being replaced. Optional texts, Parliament of Owls, replacing The Pearl, which was by John Steinbeck. A Silent Song and Other Stories will replace...
This is in secondary school.
Yes.
But they keep reviewing these books, right?
That is normal.
Every so often.
That is normal.
Yeah.
But when you change the curriculum, unfortunately, the changes are also huge when it comes to the text that will support that particular curriculum.
And it's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Remember that company, that our client, KEMSA?
That one.
People, no, I never go.
Our client.
Are they also publishing?
No. They have reviewed tender process in major reforms.
But did we send in that tender of ours?
Yeah, now they are reviewing.
Okay, fine.
So this thing should go through before. The authority, in liaison with the Ministry of Health and Development Partners, has formed a task force to address challenges currently facing it. KEMSA has been in the limelight, of course, because of COVID and the PPEs. According to Acting CEO Edwin Njoroge, a reforms implementation committee has been instituted to provide guidance and oversight in the implementation of proposed reforms. Some of the reforms that were keen on being included in the review, they'll be reviewing their procurement process to be in line with the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015. Wait a minute. So you're telling me the current one is not in line with the law?
Yeah.
Sorry. We are reviewing suppliers' performance to measure quality and consistent pricing to eliminate suppliers who fail to comply with performance requirements. So now they'll start telling us we need to have a history with them.
Do you have?
See, how are we going to have a history with them if they don't give us the first job? He added that KEMSA had made huge investments in automating all its business processes to ensure that counties' medical orders are received and processed on time. This has been made possible by the new and improved Logistics Information Management System, enabling KEMSA to inject efficiency in the supply chain service. I don't get what any of these things is. That is, like something that's completely new. Every time there's new management and new board, there's a review of our processes to streamline our processes, to make ourselves work better, to ensure that our customers can receive, and the customers here are the hospitals, especially the public hospitals around the counties, can place their orders, can receive their deliveries on time.
I'm not surprised this is coming now. Look, when you even looked at things like, all right, so we changed the board of KEMSA. Why did we change the board? Because we wanted it to appear as though, we're doing things in a streamlined manner and there was integrity and authenticity of the processes. Now you're saying, okay, the same processes, we're just going to make sure we kind of turn around the way in which we do things. Because there's the wind, but we can't change the wind, but now we can change
the sail.
So what we have now is that you're basically saying, all right, let's just keep in line with the thing so that they don't look at us and think as though we're doing things untoward.
Especially these Americans, they've talked badly about us.
Don't try and understand it too much. Just look at it for what it is, my friend.
Okay, it's 7:15. Let's take a break. Samsung.
Yes. So, Samsung A32, A52, A72 series. That's what's up for grabs now from Samsung. And there are very, very many great features about these phones. Letting you express your awesome. CT, you were supposed to take a picture and send to me.
I was.
And then?
I didn't.
Can you?
I can.
Okay.
Will you?
I won't.
So, how you capture these lifetime moments. When you're reading that book, CT, take a picture, send it to me, and then we can show how awesome you truly are. And then, we can all bask in this awesomeness. And that's what Samsung is allowing you to do with the A32, A52, and A72. And they've got a great offer up right now. So what you do is that when you walk into a shop to buy this phone, you're guaranteed that if it should get wrecked for whatever reason, with Samsung genuine products, they'll make sure that they replace these for you at any of the Samsung care centers. And even as you buy your phone, you have the option of getting a 3,000 shillings voucher, or rather hamper, with lots of goodies in it. And then we'll also be giving away some great Samsung merchandise from tomorrow. We'll let you know how to go about that. But remember, A32, A52, A72, letting you express your awesome with Samsung.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
When you see someone being jailed, a governor or two, or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. We don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 90.
Right, so leaders say their regions have no projects because they lack unity. Madaraka Day was last week, Tuesday, and we saw that there were quite a number of infrastructure projects that took place in, Western and Nyanza region. And the president went, in addition to celebrating Madaraka Day in Kisumu, was also then unveiling a number of projects that had been in construction for some time, from the stadium to highways to the port and such, right? So, others are now complaining. The reason, or 3 years since the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, coast leaders say the region has continued to be sidelined. Leaders from the region believe that they should have enjoyed a larger share of development had they been united under one leader with bargaining power. Matuga MP Kasim Tandaza yesterday said failure by local leaders coming together was to blame for a lack of projects to the coast compared to regions like Nyanza and Ukambani, represented by Raila and Kalonzo. It has taken too long for the coast to unite as envisaged by Kilifi Governor Amason Kingi, and he has not yet told us where he has been stuck. The disunity should be blamed for lack of benefits from the handshake because there is no one to negotiate for the region. Vita MP Abdul Swamad Nasir said the handshake was purely for ensuring that Kenyans embraced peace and lived in harmony. There was tension everywhere owing to different political parties and political camps that felt agitated, according to Abdul Swamad. For once, a lasting solution on the table was for President Kenyatta and Raila to come together and ensure that peace prevailed. So, it is seen that had they come together as coast leaders, that they would have also reaped some of the benefits of the handshake that we see having happened in Nyanza, for example. That because of the handshake, this is the perception, that because of the handshake, then there are certain regions who are benefiting from this in terms of infrastructure and attention to development. Now, there have been calls for unity at the coast, their own political party. And it would be seen that if you had your political party that then was party or that's associated with this handshake, that your region also would be paid adequate attention to. And it is because of this disunity in this region that we don't see the development. So according to them, 1 + 1 is equals to development.
You know, that unity at the coast is desired and it should happen. But the current crop of leaders that we have are not the ones who are going to bring it. No, they won't. They'll talk about it. They'll talk about it some more, but they won't bring it. If they can't agree among themselves on something simple as who is supposed to spear, who is supposed to lead. And when people talk of the coast, there's this assumption that this huge, harmonious place. It isn't. You start from Taita Taveta and move right up to Lamu. That diversity is immense. Now, that diversity also represents the diversity of needs that exists at the coast. So, unity, desired, it should happen, it must happen. But the current crop of leaders, starting off with the governors, they are not the ones who are going to bring that. Let them start by just unifying their own counties. Let's see them do that. When they've done that, then the idea of bringing the rest of the other people together would also come into being. Now, the issue, this narrative of good is coming because of the handshake.
It's the idea that development will come to your region if you're in good stead with the leadership.
You know, I was reading an article in the Sunday Nation by a gentleman called Gita Warigi, and it got me thinking. There are narratives that we've heard in this country for the longest time, to the point where they have taken root and they represent the reality that most people have, and you can't tell them otherwise. Narrative number 1, that Luos and Kikuyus don't get along. Not true. Truth. Narrative spun by leaders on both sides has been that each of these groups do not like each other. That's the narrative. Why do I say it's not true? Despite all this, you will still find members of these two communities living in these so-called regions and have been doing so for the longest time. Number 1. Number 2, when you talk about issues that people have and the narrative that holds sway, right now, Central Kenya political leaders, I'm specific, are paying the heavy price that is due for having demonized Raila Odinga all those years, because people have gone to believe that Raila Odinga is precisely what they said he was. So now trying to sell Raila Odinga is not going to wash that easily. Narrative. There is a narrative that development only comes when people are in high offices. My goodness gracious me. There are things that should happen because they ought to happen. That's what the government ought to do. These roads aren't being built because somebody shook hands. That's what the government should be doing anyway.
How do you divorce then the thinking from the reality. Because CT, there are people, and this is something that we're going to go into later, but there are people who believe there is nothing you will tell them, that before they didn't see it, and then there was a handshake, and you see it.
Let me tell you, if you want to further that, I was talking to some friends of mine who were of the idea, and these are people who I thought perhaps would think differently, but they didn't. They told me, see, all the development that should be coming to central Kenya is now going to Nyanza.
It's been diverted.
Yes.
By virtue of the handshake.
Yes. So I posed a question and said, tell me this water body that is in central Kenya where we can build a port. That was the question I posed, and said, no, it's not like that. I said, it's like what exactly? I said, I understand why it is these negative sentiments will never die, because people like you, I said, for heaven's sake, you ought to know better. Yeah. But that's the view. And by the way, the person was not speaking as though, no, he was just saying, but this is what's happening.
That's what you said. It's a perception that has now become our reality.
Yes.
And the leaders are basically, so for example, if you look at the leaders from Nyanza, so the president was about to go to the region, so the leaders from Nyanza came, and did you see what they were saying when they were speaking? Yeah, there's a lot of development that has taken place here, and we are grateful for the handshake. The leaders themselves were the ones who were saying this. They were saying it's
Nairobi,
because of the handshake that we have seen all these developments in our region. And we are going and telling our people, come out in large numbers to welcome the president because he has brought this with his brother, the handshake brother. If the political leaders are
what do you
milking mileage out of
it? Yeah, those who are drumming this particular.
Then look at the other side of the country, whereby the coast leaders are saying, they're replicating that same narrative.
Yeah.
The same narrative that, you know what, the reason why we have not gotten development is because we're not unified. Had we been unified, we also would have seen that the coast would have been developed in this country with infrastructure and other things. How do you stop that narrative?
Because if you look at before he went to launch the port in Kisumu, which other port had he just launched?
Lamu.
Is Lamu anywhere where the handshake is? Is it in Nyanza?
Which port received new berths before any? Kilindini.
Yes.
The Mombasa port. Suddenly, this new port, it's a port that had existed. It's not as though all they did was
expansion.
That's it. Suddenly, look at the narrative.
This whole, I don't know actually how we shall get to a point where people stop looking at as a leader as being the person who brings, because it's the same kind of mentality that's also with the people in Mount Kenya region. Because we elected you and you're not bringing this development to us. Look at the conversation that was happening in the Senate. It's because this person comes from Mount Kenya. That's why all the money is going to Mount Kenya. We saw
yes,
Moses Wetangula saying,
he said
coffee, all the money has gone there. Mira, I don't know how went there. Roads, all the roads are being done there. If you look at the kind of development, the dairy, it's being developed in this region. It's because the man comes from this region. And then the people of the region are saying, but you're not even doing anything from us.
Now,
these narratives will... and they're the ones that keep putting us in that position.
At that entire foundation of any kind of unity that can happen. It's what happened.
And when you talk to the Mwananchi in that Mount Kenya region, they're telling you, but Uhuru has done nothing for us. They will tell you that. So you ask, okay, the whole of last week I was taking Uber. And I like taking Uber because it gives me an opportunity to have a conversation that ordinarily I wouldn't have. So I posed a question to an Uber driver who told me he came from Kiambu. He was politically charged. I liked his views. The man talked throughout, and I asked him, these things that you say Uhuru ought to do, what then should your governor do for you? Because the governor also gets money. Or your MP. Because I'm sure Kiambu doesn't have one MP. Kiambu has several MPs. Anyway, the point is, nobody wants to consider CDF. Nobody wants to consider the funds that the county gets. It's just the leadership at the top. Now,
and nobody wants to also look at what is actually happening across the country.
Genuinely happening.
Yes. So if it's not happening, it's not happening. If it's happening, it's happening. And it shouldn't be, this, we should have a bigger stake in this because we overwhelmingly voted for the person who ended up winning. That shouldn't be the case. And that's it's a big, frustrating conversation that you really can't have. And like you're saying, Ndu, let's continue that conversation into the next hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. It's coming up to 7 o'clock. So we ask ourselves, so does a leader get judged by how much development they have brought to their home region? Are we now judging Uhuru because he has shook hands with Raila Odinga? Now they are doing all these developments in Nyanza. Is that really, truly what is happening? Are we seeing more development now because of the handshake? Or was this development part of the plans of a government? Are we seeing development in other parts of the country that is also commensurate with what is happening elsewhere? Good morning. Kenya's biggest conversation, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Nizwa. I'm Dennis Aseto. Will Advocate Miguna be allowed to return to the country after being deported 3 years ago? This is the big question, especially after the court once again declared that Miguna is free to return. A 3-judge bench has rejected the government's request for a temporary suspension of an order authorizing his return. The government, through the director of the Immigration Department, Alexander Muteshi, had asked the Court of Appeal to overturn the decision of Judge Chacha Mwita in December 2018, which also demanded that the government pay Miguna 7 million shillings in compensation. Justin Muturi will be President Uhuru Kenyatta's and Mount Kenya spokesperson, according to President Uhuru Kenyatta's cousin, Kung'u Mwigai. He says Speaker Muturi's coronation is still on course despite the earlier exercise being criticized for the hinting that there will be other events in the Mount Kenya forest. The elders who endorsed him insist that President Kenyatta is aware of the ongoing process and will regularly use Muturi to ascertain the president's views on various issues. Kenya Railways has said the fire on a train transporting oil containers from Nanyuki to Nairobi was caused by electric fault on its engine. The agency said firefighters managed to control the blaze a few minutes after the outbreak. Anthony Mwangi is one of the officers.
Tukaharakisha tukakuja on time, tukapata engine ndio ilikuwa inatoa moshi. Tumekabana nayo na sasa hii yote iko sawa. Hakuna majeraha, sisi sote tuko sawa.
No one was injured during the incident. And residents of Tuwan slums in Trans Nzoia County who have been in the dark for more than 5 decades can now engage in self-improvement activities before the curfew following a government move to invest in security lights. They say that pregnant and sick mothers can travel to the hospital at night to be cared for. They add that these will help them go about their businesses easily, free from fear of being robbed or sexually abused.
Mimi ni mkasa wa area hii na nimefurahi sana. Kazi nilikuwa nafanya hapa ya usiku, saa yote nikibia wakora tunakibisana nao kwa sababu hakuna mwangaza, lakini kuanzia sasa tumepumzika, hata kulala tutarara.
Vijana sisi tumehangaika sana, tulikuwa na uoga sana. Ifika saa 1 saa 2 tunaogopa kupita mtaa, lakini kwa hakika tumeona maendeleo. Kwa hakika tumefurahia sana mwangaza kama huu.
At least 132 civilians were killed in the worst militant attack in Burkina Faso in recent years after armed assailants laid siege overnight to a village in the northeast. The attackers struck during the night, killing residents of the village of Solhan bordering Niger. The government announced a 72 period of national mourning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, despite that accident having happened last night and it being removed this morning, the Southern Bypass is flowing smoothly. Has headed out towards the city centre using that option. Coming off the Ole Sereni exit on Mombasa Road doesn't look too bad. Industrial areas already piling up today, and you're coming out on the Likoni interchange and then connecting with the Southern Bypass on Mombasa Road. That doesn't look too bad either. Let's take a look at Joko Road. Headed out from Hamza, it's very slow as you approach the City Stadium roundabout and then onto Landis Road into the CBD. Not too bad either. We're starting to see some build-up of traffic, however, on Kiambu Road today as you try to join Muthaiga Square and then out towards the Pangani Underpass. So we're starting to see traffic is building up quite some also. It's coming out of Westlands, heading into the city centre by way of Uhuru Highway, and then you get to the University Way roundabout, getting into the CBD, not too terrible. All right, let's take a look at things and how they look later. Outer Ring, we'll have to look at that. It's building up from what used to be Taj Mall towards North Airport Road, and then also onto Outer Ring itself, all the way through to Thika Road at Allsops. Slow is what we're looking at right now. Let's take a look at it in a bit. Okay, SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127. What do we want to do? We want to keep things moving this Monday morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Thank you very much for tuning in to The Situation Room, wherever you are this morning. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
You cannot turn the wind, so turn the sail.
You cannot turn the wind.
You can't.
So
turn
the sail. Yes. Bendera hufuata upepo.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
I like it.
Yeah. So which is the wind and which is the sail in this particular case then? Handshake goodies split Raila's allies. Mega projects unleashed in Nyanza have put Raila partners in NASA, Musalia, Kalonzo, Wetangula under pressure to deliver the presidency so that their regions can benefit. In fairness, this is a narrative that all these political leaders usually use when they're campaigning. You elect me so that we can go in there and bring the goodies back to you. Mm-hmm. I will go to Nairobi. I will have access to the store. I will grab as much as I can from that store and bring so that we can eat together. Hapa, kwa ground. So when the presidency, for example, is won by Uhuru Kenyatta, who is from Mount Kenya, and his deputy is William Ruto, who's from the North Rift, it is viewed that the Mount Kenya and the North Rift are the ones that are going to benefit for the next 5 years. And everybody else, wacha tukule nyama, nyinyi, mumeze mate. And then, when they shake hands between the president and the leader of the opposition, now we start seeing another narrative that now after handshake, there's a lot of projects that have been launched. There was a refurbishment of the port. Mm-hmm. There is ensuring that the railway gets to the port. There's ensuring that we have more road projects happening in the Nyanza region, and agriculture projects that have been launched in the Nyanza region. And these are the fruits of the handshake, because our man has now gotten access to the store and is able to get things from that barn and bring down to us, the people, as well. Who's the owner of this narrative? Is it the politician or is it the citizen?
I think it definitely is the politician that's the owner of the narrative. Because if I can just go through, right, some of the projects that are taking place around the country, just to give us a little bit of a foundation to this, and then we can go further into this, is that it is not just one place that these development projects are taking place. But I can see why somebody would want to use it and amplify it, because somebody from the region is now a partner in the handshake. Let's just start. Concertec City, that's taking place in eastern Kenya. The Lapsec Corridor project is for the entire region. Railway Mombasa Malaba, Railway Nairobi Naivasha. Some of these completed, some of these ongoing, right? Nairobi Mombasa Highway, the expansion of the same. Mombasa Port expansion now in phase 2. Phase 1 was completed last year. Nairobi, several within Nairobi, a lot of development projects happening within Nairobi. I mean, they're about 22, so there's not able to finish that. The Koru Soin Highway, the Menengai geothermal project, the new Kipevu oil project, the expressway in Nairobi, the Malindi Bagamoyo coastline transnational highway, Tatu City, the Lamu Isiolo road, the Ngong road expansion. I could go on and on and on. But do we see that these projects are centered in one part of the country, or do we see that they are spread out in different parts? And I've not even touched, just the surface of some of the projects that are ongoing. These are projects that some started as late as 5 years ago, some were implemented a year ago, some now have reached their completion. They're happening all over the country. I've not even talked about the ones that are happening in Nyanza and some that were completed also in other parts of eastern and western Kenya.
The question one would ask.
The question then.
Therefore,
why take one particular area where these development projects are happening and say that the only reason why they're happening is because the handshake took place and one of the individuals, representative of Nyanza, is the reason why you see the spotlight being shown on these projects now that have been developed there? I think it is a bit rudimentary thinking. But it is brilliant in the sense that it'll have your audience captive, that they will say, hold on a minute, then this actually is where we should be focusing our attention. That, all right, I will then say, I will cast my support here because it is clear that if you go into this position, you will then bring development to us. I don't think politics has ever been a shared goal. The individuals who go out touting, if you ask me, these very dangerous things by saying that, yes, in fact, we've come out to thank you and say that we now see the benefits of a handshake like this because our area now has been developed. What do you do in terms of polarization for the rest of the country, whether this thing is happening or not? Let's not even look at whether the development is focused in one area or not. But the amount of polarization that will take place by virtue of you just saying those words is crazy. That the narrative has been spun, it has sunk, it has taken root, that people actually do believe. That thing that you said, that money that essentially would go to Central and Mount Kenya has now been diverted, it has gone to Nyanza. We're not looking at the rest of the projects that are taking place around the country. We're not talking about what's going on in Eastern. We're not talking about what has just been completed in Lamu. We're not talking about the entire Lapset project that is weaving through the country and going out into the rest of East Africa. We're not talking about the major highways that are being developed. We're not.
I think if you talk to the politicians and you hear them talking all the time, even when they're debating in Parliament, no one is disagreeing that, yes, there are projects happening all over the country. The question is the proportion. Are they being proportionately allocated around the country?
How many is enough?
Would you say that in the last 8 years of Uhuru's administration, X amount of money has been spent on projects that are taking place around his home turf of Mount Kenya, as compared to X amount of money that has been spent in other parts of the country? Because this is a conversation that has actually been raised on the floor of, is it the National Assembly or the Senate or both? They argue that this administration is favoring a certain region. That's the same conversation that's happening now. Now because of the handshake, now there has been some bit of, the Nyanza region is getting proportionately a bit more than it was getting before. And now you can see a lot more allocation, a lot more focus going into Nyanza than was happening before. I want to ask, is there some truth to it?
If you were looking at it from the point of view of the person who lives in the area where they feel money is being taken from them, you could say there is some truth to that perception. But again, if you look at the development that is taking place across the country, and we're looking at the polarization within, I'm using these two communities of the mountain region, Nyanza, as my points of example, all right? There are those who actually believe that the Nyanza region has been marginalized from time immemorial. From the time that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the founding president, Jomo Kenyatta, disagreed. There are those who believe firmly that that region was neglected completely. Now, there are those who also argue that, yes, when you talk about development, sometimes it is not that you're not getting development. It's just that you are accustomed to seeing a certain level of development. And if you don't, then as far as you're concerned, you are not getting the development you should be getting. Page 3 of the Star has a very interesting article. There's a Chinese contractor who was attacked by thugs and lost 6 million shillings. Now you wonder, what on earth was this Chinese contractor doing? This Chinese contractor was part of the team that was building a dam. It's called the Kariminu Phase 2 Dam in Gatundu, North Kiambu County. Now, if you look at the number of dams that this particular part of the country has, there are several. Why? Because dams need water, and there's water that is necessary, but only necessary if it is managed, and dams do that. There's talk of building a similar dam to manage the Nyando River. The dam hasn't been built. There's talk of building it.
Yeah.
So if you were to go toe-to-toe, project to project, you would actually ask, but why is it that this place has more dams than the other? But I would argue that is not the way you look at development. Not really. The way you look at development is in what is it that has been planned for this region and what has been accomplished with the planning.
Okay. What influences decision-making at the planning stage?
The planning stage isn't where the problem is, Eric. I think in planning, those who plan for the country. They actually plan and say, we need this for this region, we need this for this region, because that's what also informs that budget process that we keep talking about.
Okay.
Thereafter, the influence you speak of comes in, where do we prioritize these development projects? And the argument would be, okay, so why don't we look at, since we're going by the narrative of decision-making is determined by who is in the decision-making positions. Now, they'll ask, okay, who is the CS in charge of this? Okay. And who is the CS in charge of this? Who is the PS in charge of this? That's the second level at which this discussion will take place. Now, so long as we don't remove our minds from the notion that everything that pertains to development has to be at the national level, then we will let our governors go scot-free.
But do Kenyans right now, when you are making that decision, are you making the decision from a national perspective, or are you making it from a more micro perspective, that it is my region and my community that will benefit if this individual goes into power?
Do you really think that an ordinary Kenyan citizen thinks nationally?
There you go. So then this thing could be true.
When you're making your decision, you're making a decision based on what you know and what
your
you need.
experience and what you need at that time, right? So then there is the assumption that it is even better that if this individual is from my neck of the woods, then it is guaranteed that he understands my pain or understands my needs, and that when he or she gets there, you're not going to be focusing on the rest of the country. You are then going to be focusing here because you're from here, you understand it, and your backbone essentially is here. That's the assumption.
Okay. I gotta ask now the question: Is it a dangerous way of looking at things?
Absolutely, it is.
Why?
Because who do you then leave out? Everybody else.
All right. Can we ask the question?
It's polarizing in nature.
How many ministries which were previously under the purview of the national government, how many have been devolved?
The functions that have been devolved?
Yes.
Well, let's just say everything else except. I think it's easier to look at it like that.
Things that have been devolved. So we can say agriculture, 100% devolved, and healthcare, 100% devolved. And now issues of local governments, 100% devolved, right? Because when you talk about education, it's still at national level. But even with that, the cake is being divided from the top, and then the counties are receiving a little amount of it, and then the rest is still remaining at the top. Remember with the whole conversation about the CARA, the division, county allocation revenue, and the entire back and forth that happened in the Senate. One man, one vote, or one man, 1 shilling, or should it be 1 kilometer, 1 shilling? What was it that the politicians were saying? They were saying that you have more people here, so you need to allocate more resources here. Others were saying, but these areas don't have many people. One of the reasons they don't have many people is also because they were marginalized for a long time and people did not settle here. They've been moving to other areas that had development. So let's allocate this per kilometer. It's a whole issue of who has been in power for the last X amount of years and where have they been concentrating their development cash. And this whole thing of one man, one shilling, is it perpetuating the same injustice that has been there since the beginning of time? So even if you're now talking about devolution, it's still coming from that point.
You know, the real discussion with that one man, one vote, I wish it was as academic as you're presenting it. There are people whose key focus was central Kenya.
Yes.
They were not thinking about the rest of the country because the other parts of the country that are fairly densely populated, they were thinking central Kenya.
And the reason they're thinking central Kenya is because Uhuru Kenyatta is from central Kenya.
And
yes, that was it.
It's almost guaranteed in their thinking that because he is from here, then also the end result is guaranteed. Actually, that there will be development because he's focusing here in his home.
You know,
and that anybody who comes, if you have somebody later who comes in from a different part of the country, then it is only assumed that that person would be in that area developing.
It's unfortunate because Uhuru is bearing the brunt of not just his presidency, but the presidency of Mwai Kibaki, who was also from Central Kenya. Now, you see, all these arguments feed into this. And yet, people say that the Kibaki government was one of the best governments that we've ever seen.
After he left office.
Usually it has to be.
When he was in office, just like Uhuru is in office now, it was all about, that's the whole issue of 41 versus 1.
Yes.
He is concentrating all the attention and development in his region, in his backyard. Everything that's happening now, if you look, he's building a road to go to a mega highway, multi-billion shilling road to go to his backyard. All those things, it's the same. And that's why I was asking the question, is this a dangerous narrative? And two, who is the owner of this narrative? Is it the voter? Is it the politician? Is it a co-owned?
You know, my initial reaction was that it is the politician. But you know what? Narratives feed off of something. In as much as sometimes somebody can sit and create something, there's a bit of reality that is part of that whole concoction. That there's something that somebody has seen or something that they have heard that makes them say, hold on a minute, this is actually what people think. We have people who call us here every day and tell us, in the same backyard that President Uhuru Kenyatta is from, who tell us absolutely nothing has happened. But initially that was their expectation, that we have a president who will now bring development to our area because he is from here. But then if your hopes get dashed along the way, then it becomes something that was not true. There is, whether salient or outspoken, the thinking in the minds of people that if I have a leader who is from my area, that they're going to bring development. I'll give you an example of some of the areas in Nigeria. When we had a president from the south, the roads in the south were beautiful. Now, whether it was because that was national policy and planning at that time, that we are going to now concentrate our development efforts in this area, we will never know, and no one will be the wiser. But the narrative was that, the South president is developing the South. And then guess what? When you had a northern president, the roads north of the Benue River were beautiful. Just as an example. And then you started to see a lot of infrastructure development in the northern states that you would not ordinarily see. Borno State, Sokoto State, Bauchi, Kaduna, Kano, everywhere started to receive some serious infrastructure development or resurfacing or upgrading. Does it not feed into that very well?
Yeah.
That because you have somebody from the north, again, it could be that when you have policy and planning in place, that the 5-year or 10-year development programs that they had were actually going to see that certain parts of the country then were developed. But it is a narrative from the people that it is the assumption that I have somebody from my backyard at the highest place in power. It is my backyard that's going to be developed. So as I think about it now, I think that politicians pick up on that feeling and then they expand it and amplify it because it is there. It is there.
You know, they don't pick up from it. They are the creators of it. So all they do is expand it because that same narrative, Eric asked a very valid question, which I feel we haven't done justice to. Is there truth to it? The answer is yes. There is truth to it. When we had governments that were one-party system and that we often refer to as dictatorial, this very narrative was a reality. It was not a supposition. It was not a figment of someone's imagination. Whoever was in the leadership could decide what you got and didn't get. It was not complicated. It was as simple as that. And if they determined that you would not get something, you would not get it. And over time, we saw the issue of elections were pegged, depending on the candidate, were pegged to this.
Yep.
You want electricity? A purview just to the pre-election will bring you electricity poles or telephone poles. If the candidate is preferred but the leadership doesn't go through, those poles are taken back. So, what message do you think is sent?
That's what I'm saying, and it's not a good message.
And for the longest time, if you were to ask people in central Kenya, during the Moi era, they would argue that part of the reason why they uprooted their coffee plants was because
they were neglected.
Yeah, precisely. If the roads aren't good enough, what on earth are you going to do?
And at the same time, they'd say that you go to some parts of this country, especially in Moi's backyard, and cattle and goats are just grazing and lying on tarmac.
Eric, that was not entirely false.
But you see now,
you go to a certain part of
it's not that there were no cars, but there were very few cars that passed.
People are drying grain on tarmac.
But this is why I then agree. You saw it
myself, so it's not something. But it's not that there were no vehicles. They were just that there were really very few vehicles.
But this is why I then agree with the lower level management of different areas in the country. And that's why you have things like federalism and devolution. Because it allows now smaller pockets of the country then to be paid attention to and be managed properly. So you can talk about the president and handshake brother as much as you want, but then you have to ask yourself the question, what are your governors doing? This story of the coastal leaders looking for some kind of unification. A governor of a county, an entire county, is the one who says, let's have this unification of leaders, and then that way we will be well represented on the national scale. With the demarcation that has been allocated to you, what is it that you have actually been able to do?
How much is that demarcation? You know, on the other hand, we talk about how much the counties are doing. If you actually go around the country, you'll see some fruits of devolution. Yes, there's been a lot of pilferage. There's been a lot of corruption at the county level. But then you will see some things that are directly beneficial out of devolution. Now, even as you look at governors, for example, this whole issue of Kara, how much money is coming to a county? How much influence do you have for extra cash? Very many projects will rely on the national government starting some projects so that it can benefit. And then the county will actually go ahead with it.
So are you saying then in terms of who gets what, is a direct feeding into this same narrative that if I need a certain amount for Kilifi County, for example,
align yourself properly with the guy in State House.
If you don't align with the leadership, then you will not get the development that you need.
You'll only be getting your 17 billion shillings that will be coming, and you know, out of that 17 billion shillings, a lot of it is being spent on just paying salaries. In terms of development, the development that needs to be seen and visible and be felt over your 5-year term, you will need the national government to come in and inject some projects.
And if you're not aligned properly...
Look at Kisumu now. Anyang' Nyong'o, the governor, is sitting pretty. There's a port project going on. There's a road network happening. There's an entire... all these things.
Against that backdrop, Eric, there are all these small-scale traders who had vibandas on the road reserves and which were demolished.
There was the whole Kibos area.
Yeah, so that entire economy is in the doghouse.
Yes.
So, and these are the citizens. So the question one would ask is development at what cost? Because what is the alternative? There's the alternative of building a bus park, building a this, and then building a that. But the thing is, so long as people are not able to conduct the businesses they were conducting to earn a livelihood
on a daily,
that development, good as it is, will really be salt in their mouths. It'll be ashes
and
in
we'll
their
give you a
mouths.
direct example of that. We read a story in the paper last week. Turkana, beautiful market, right? Stalls, modern, etc., etc. Water flowing through the pipes, very nice. Guess what? It's empty because people said, we are selling on the side of the road. And we have this foot traffic, beautiful. People who are traveling through, they don't have to stop. They can buy from their vehicles. So why move us away from the side of the road
into
this confined market? As it is developed, it is beautiful, it is modern. There's water in the taps, etc., etc. There's security, but we don't want that one because we're going to lose out if we cannot be on the side.
I
of the
feel
road.
them. I feel those traders. Was it Turkana?
Yes,
the same thing I've been talking about in Nyandaro County here at Flyover.
At Sokomjinga.
Past Sokomjinga, new market built, but you see, at the design stage, if you have not involved the community to ask them, so you guys, what is it that you need? If you don't understand that Sokomjinga is not a retail market, it is actually a bigger market that...
It is a wholesale come retail market. It's an everything some market.
So a new market that you build has got to take care of that. We want to open up the conversation so you can join us. This whole narrative of a leader at the top, the person who is in State House, and how well your leader is aligned to the person who's in State House then determines how much development comes to your area. Is this a real narrative? Is this true? Is it not true? Yagon is saying, well, that Uhuru Kenyatta is developing Kiambu, Nakuru, Kisumu, more than other counties. That's a fact. What is Boyd saying?
Boyd says, let's agree that development projects though uneven in terms of capital size, are spread across the entire country. However, Nyanza leaders hype the share of the same in their region to entice or entertain gullible electorate and perhaps to cover their own individual failures. Beautiful, I must say. I love it.
We'd like to hear from you. 0719-012-600 or SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. And how do we then manage this conversation and this narrative so that it works to the benefit of the country, not to polarize the people? jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Have you visited that website lately? So this is a portal that advertises very many jobs. People have gone and listed for jobs. They're looking for employees. And if you go to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, you'll be able to see the jobs that have been advertised and you can apply. And in addition to that, you subscribe for job alerts. So if a job that you are looking for has not been advertised now, whenever somebody is looking for your skill and your competence, you will be alerted via your email or your SMS. Sales specialist, that's business applications. Microsoft is looking for somebody for that. A warehouse assistant is being looked for. Microsoft is also looking for an engineering manager, junior PR executive, or influencer management. That's GG Kenya. These and very many other jobs. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Time for a break. Let's take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we pick your calls. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday? Cash, of course. What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details. What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday? Cash, of course. What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 1,000 shillings to 41
Mostly cloudy
lucky
conditions in Nairobi,
SpiceFM
14 temperatures dropping by the day, 23 the high and lows of 12. Mostly sunny in Nyeri at 13, highs of 22. We'll see highs of 25 in Nakuru. It's sunny at 14, mostly sunny at 10 in Eldoret. We'll go to highs of 25 today. 28 the high in Kisumu, 19 and mostly sunny. 19 and mostly sunny as well in Kakamega, highs of 29 and lows of 14. We'll see highs of 30 in Mombasa today. It's mostly cloudy at 25. Mostly cloudy conditions at 27 in Malindi with highs of 29. 26 with a high in Kampala, 21 and rain showers this morning. It's cloudy at 23 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 31 and lows of 24. 14 degrees and foggy still in Johannesburg at 4. That'll be the low for today as well. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 25, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 32 in Kinshasa. It's partly cloudy at 22.
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say.
Thank you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me, what channel is SpiceFM?
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're still seeing some traffic on Mombasa Road today. It's likely to be that way at least until 9:30 when traffic of hour is over. Building up, and a lot of folks are then using the ICD route, and then you connect at the Southern Bypass. There's an option for you to use this morning. It's a foolproof one. And then coming out at the Langata Road exit, you should be all right. We saw some traffic building up right around KWS, headed out then towards the Taj Mall roundabout. The T Mall roundabout. It shouldn't be too bad. Speaking of Taj Mall, what used to be, headed out towards Outer Ring, North Airport Road. In that general direction, traffic is bumper to bumper. And on the other side of things, Kiambu Road. Sorry, I laugh because it's, I don't know, we can't cry right now, can we? Because it's bumper to bumper, and as you're trying to get to the Muthaiga Square and then out towards Pangani underpass, it's quite the story. These service lanes on Thika Road today doing very well, so use those as you can. All right, let's take a look at how it looks like in a short while. SpiceFMKE on Twitter, text on 40127, and let's keep things moving this Monday morning.
It's 24 minutes to 8 o'clock. Conversation continues. 0719012600. Remind us about Samsung.
All right, so Samsung is reminding everybody how you're awesome and I am awesome. Yes, I am awesome. And, so are you. And,
if you insist,
all of us are awesome. Hey, Samsung said it. I didn't. But then I will go ahead and say it. All right. What comes to your mind? It could be a skill. It could be a craft. And it could be a piece of technology like the A32, the A52, and the A72 series that are up for grabs. And guess what? Awesome is for everybody. Let's start off with the A32. It's the entry level for the Samsung Galaxy series range. Don't be fooled. It's small, but it packs a punch, right? In its design, in its screen, its camera, its battery, and it allows you to capture moments with a one single charge. Moments where you have a conversation with somebody for 2 days. I don't know who would talk for that long, but I know some people who've been known to do so. But yes, and you can also capture great moments with the fantastic camera that it wields. So we'll start off with that. The Samsung A32 entry level small phone packs a big punch and allows you to capture those moments to create awesome for you and awesome for everybody.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
22 minutes to 8 o'clock. So, development. Handshake goodies split Raila's allies because people are saying that, you see now, since the handshake, there's been a lot of development that's gone into the Nyanza region. And this is not proportionate to what development is happening in other parts of the country? Is it true? Is it not true? Daniel Osiemo says this narrative of development being attached to the top leaders has its strings even to education. Top students used to come from Koibatek during the Moi era.
I almost hear him saying it was doctored.
Fred Choge, I was talking to some people. I was listening to some people talking. And what were they saying?
Some people talking
off the table when the national cake is shared. How does that sound? Meaning some counties are sidelined.
Okay. I think it's interesting, as you try to mull over that and,
get
twist
what
your
you're saying.
eyebrow just a little bit more. Vinny Ndegwa says, in my view, he is trying to bridge a historical gap of development that has always existed, especially the marginalization of Coast and Nyanza by previous regimes. History will vindicate him when we have candidates campaign in the so-called strongholds of their opponents.
That particular discussion, if you're talking marginalization, you cannot talk about marginalization and not look at the errors as in ERA, not ERROR.
Well, maybe that too.
Yes, because look, coffee farming in Central Kenya was the hub for coffee farming. And what we called the boom during the Chepkube days was because Brazil, a major producer of coffee, had frost. So coffee...
They couldn't produce.
The coffee died in short, okay? But one of the things that governments do with products that are key to their people is they protect this particular cash crop. Coffee was not protected. So the farmer was left to the vagaries of the world market and what have you. And as a result of it, what did Kenyans see? Coffee farmers uprooted their coffee and used the land as real estate. Right now, people who are in the coffee business are making money. I am arguing, had the government protected the coffee farmers then, the coffee farmers right now would also be minting.
Okay.
But the parallel I want to draw, Eric, before you ask, because the question I think is pertinent. Had there been more coffee being grown in the Rift Valley?
Okay. So if coffee was in Baringo, if Baringo was a coffee growing area.
If Nandi was a coffee growing area and Kericho was a coffee growing area. That's the question I'm asking.
Would it have been treated the same way?
Would that have been the same treatment? That's the question I'm asking. Because tea goes through the same doldrums as coffee. Same doldrums.
I think you've answered my question. Who owns the narrative?
Yes.
John in Elbagon, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thanks, John.
Mko wazima?
Kabisa sana, John. Habari za leo?
Salama. Welcome back, Eric.
Asante sana.
While you are away, okay, let me not say. One of the things that the 2010 Constitution was trying to cure is exactly what we are discussing.
Yep.
We were not, by this time, we should not be talking about, like what I saw the other day, a whole province.
Regional leadership.
Region leadership going to State House with a list of things they want the president to do. We should not be having that discussion. And as long as you see that discussion, as long as you see a whole regional leadership going to State House with a list of demands or things they want the president to do, then this narrative will continue.
I want to ask you, John,
yes, sir.
Were we honest with ourselves when we were saying that this is what we want devolution to mean?
Yeah, I think people are honest. You were very honest.
So then why did they still focus? In 2013, we had never tested a governor, never tasted the fruits of devolution. What was the focus in 2013 elections? It was still on the presidency. Why?
It's because, and that's why some of us have been really against the BBI, because we still have a very strong president. And if we change the constitution again with the BBI, we are even making this presidency more stronger. We are making this presidency to have more power, even to allocate resources. And until we reach that point where we devolve to an extent that we will not looking at the presidency as somebody who has to devolve to give us, so to speak, development, as we say, then we'll continue having this discussion for a very, very long time.
So, John, do I hear you to be saying that when people sit down, the political leadership that we elect, when they sit down, they all seem to want a powerful presidency?
Yes, they do.
And would you say that those views that they have represent our views as the ordinary citizens?
They have made us to believe so, because they have made us to believe that unless you have a presidency from your area, then you will not have development.
Are we really that helpless that we cannot determine and think what we actually... What must they determine what is good for us?
The leadership.
I mean, are we not capable of disagreeing with them on this one?
Until we see
I don't think.
There are influences, I think.
There are influences.
Yes, I don't think we are able to. And again, they have actually proven to us that it is working. Let me give you an example. Between 2013 and 2018, I think Uhuru went to Nyanza, I think, once. Between 2018 and 9, he has gone there 8 times.
And you're counting, John.
With this new trip, it was clear.
This one now made it 9.
There was context.
This one actually is like times 3. The last time you went is times 3. So with all that, it tells you it's not just about. It is more. Actually, it's not just a narrative as we are saying. It's actually the reality.
It's the reality.
It is the reality. It's not a narrative as we want to. It is the reality. And even as we say about evolution, those projects that the president is doing in Nyanza, they are national projects. They are not.
They are not devolved projects.
They are not devolved, so they are national projects. For example, let me ask you, why would the president build another stadium in Nyanza, and there was already another stadium there?
Good point.
Was it necessary? Was it necessary?
Good point.
Well, they could have taken that stadium to Northeastern, where we don't have a stadium. So it is a narrative. It's a reality. And as long as we have this president who is strong, we'll continue having that reality on the ground.
I completely agree with you, John. I think, and for me, the owner of the narrative is actually the politician.
Yes.
It's a politician who, and because they have for example, look at now the current leadership. They are using their power that we've given to them to propagate the same narrative.
Yeah, and it is working very well.
The president invited all these leaders from the region to come. And the leaders from the region, because they know what they're likely to get personally, individually, for their own benefit, they knew what they were going to get. They went. They spoke as they were speaking. And then they go to the ground and say, you see, now these are the fruits of handshake. And with that handshake, you can see how aligned I am and how close I am to the handshake partners. So when it comes to the next election, you also need to elect me so that, I make sure. One of the reasons why the road has come to our neighborhood is because of my proximity to Raila, who is now close to Uhuru.
And that's why the leaders in Western now are complaining and saying, yes, we were part of this. I saw one of them say, if you are a polygamist, you are given a bread, you don't give just one wife.
You give all.
Yes, so he was giving he says only Nyanza are getting, the people from Western who are also supposed to be in NASA, they are not benefiting from it.
John, please go ahead, John.
And as you usually say, Muga, that is about, there's perception and also there's optics.
John, there's something that you raised which in my mind actually gets to the heart of the matter, that these are national projects.
Yes.
If you look at the roads, let's start with the roads that are being built, and you only look at the Thika highway, you forget it doesn't end in Thika.
Yes.
It goes beyond central Kenya, it goes right up to our borders. And if you look at this Mombasa, Nairobi road, it's not just a Mombasa, Nairobi road, it's a Trans-Africa highway. That road, when you follow it, it connects you to the next country and the next and the next and the next. So when you talk about the Africa Free Trade Area, it becomes a reality because of that infrastructure.
But how many people are able to think like you are thinking?
Very few people have an understanding of what the blueprint
Actually,
is.
I think many people get it. It's just that the overwhelming persuasion when it comes to some of these matters is we like to be myopic. We like to think, well, since I come from this place, then
also,
but your personal argument a lot of times is going to override any other kind of logic that you would like.
And there's also that reality. Yes, from Mombasa to Nairobi. Let's talk about Makueni County. How many kilometers of tarmac road network are there in Makueni County that would then feed into this major road? Then look at expansion of Thika Superhighway all the way to Marua going to Nanyuki. How many kilometers of roads interlink and feed onto this one? Tarmac road.
There are many.
There are many. If I was a voter in Makueni, I'd make Kivuta president. To see roads.
When you make him president, then there's how you are going to benefit.
Yes.
Directly benefit.
Eric.
Another I've always said that the 2010 Constitution, the devolution part of it, the resources and the political, I think we have still not hacked it. We have not devolved the resources the way we are supposed to devolve according to the 2010 Constitution.
Yep.
We have not devolved power the way we are supposed to.
Yep.
In such a way that we will not be fighting about who is going to be the president, we will not be fighting about the resources.
That's true.
So we need to relook that. And unfortunately, the BBI is not giving us that solution. It's making it worse.
Thank you very much, John. Have a lovely day.
Lovely day.
So we'd like to hear from you as well. 0719 012 600. This narrative, according to Eric Muturi, has been there for a long time, guys. Just see how the CSS, parastatal heads, and the list goes on. So if a governor does not become a friend of the government, then he or she is done development-wise.
But isn't that a horrible place to be? Just think about it. That when you should be looking at what should actually be happening in a country, that it is clear in the minds of some that if I do not align or associate, then there will not be development in my part. And look at a lot of the narratives that politicians ride on during election. What do they say? Whether it is them to bring the development or not. What do they say? What are the things they say that will get to the minds of people? We will build the schools. We will bring the hospitals. We will fix the roads. All along development. But now what we are saying is, you know what? If this individual is not linked
if he's in the opposition.
Forget it.
Forget it. And that's the truth.
But whereas in other countries, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what side you are on. Development is for everybody because you're looking at it holistically. And it is very clear that again, you're as strong as your weakest link. That if a certain part of the country is weaker in terms of development, that paints the picture for the entire country. You can say what you want until the cows come home. But if there's no development in certain areas, that is the profile that you're presenting as the country. So here we are saying, essentially, imagine, that is what we have reduced all of this down to. That if you're in the opposition, if you do not align, if you have an opinion that is contrary to the popular at that time, that essentially what you've done by having a brain or by thinking or having an opinion is that you have essentially taken development away from your people.
Yep.
Very sad place to be in, if you ask me.
Yep.
Very sad place to be in.
You know what is strange? Yeah? If you look, for instance, at Kisumu, okay, geographically where it's situated, it is extremely central to East and Central Africa, just its position. And that is whether you're talking about air, you're talking about rail, you're talking about sea, you're talking about road. So if, say, for instance, I was a business person and I wanted to do business with East and Central Africa and maybe beyond, and you had an economic zone that could enable me to put up the sort of structure that would further my business, would I want to be transporting my business all the way from Kitengela, Nairobi to that place, or would I rather put it there so that I can actually have a bigger reach? The problem with the logic of planning is that it's often lost completely in the cacophony of politics. Completely lost.
Yeah.
Because something that ought to make and should and does make sense is simply done away with. Look, for instance, at the projects that we've had for this longest time, which began in the Moi era. What is this IT center that we have on Mombasa Road?
Konza City.
Konza City. See,
yes.
I knew, yes. If you look at the idea behind Konza City, it is a fantastic idea. It is a beautiful idea. And it's an idea which, if given flesh, would actually do a lot of things, because some of the things that we keep doing, we have traders who keep going to China. Now, ask yourself a simple question. If you provided the sort of favorable trading position where manufacturers who people go to could actually bring their wares here or have assembly plants in such a place, or somewhere, say, in Mombasa, you tell me, are you not seeing a situation where all these Africans who keep going abroad would actually be coming to Kenya to do business with you?
Stay here. Yeah.
Yes.
All these things, looking at it from that point, they make a lot of sense. And like you've said, it's the politics that comes to muddy the waters. And that politics is what we are unable to free ourselves from. When I was asking John whether we were sincere about, the entire conversation about devolution and what devolution should do and how devolution should benefit us and why we're saying we're devolving power, we're devolving influence, we are devolving decision-making to be at the local level, to be at the ward level, so that people determine what their priority projects are and what they require. We said one thing, and then we sat back, and the politicians look at that and they were like, the politicians at that point, there was no politician at that point who went to Naivasha, for example, to look at the draft constitution, who wanted to go back and become an MCA.
No.
They were all looking at, I will be either a governor or I will be president. And because the influencers were the ones who were looking for the presidency, they still wanted to find ways of being the ones that control. So the whole conversation of how much money then are we devolving? Yes, how many functions are we devolving? How much money are we devolving? And putting a bottom ceiling of just 15% is giving the politician the leeway to determine, but you see, I've given you 30. But you see, I'm the one, the big man, who has determined, Constitution has only told me 15 is the minimum, but I'm giving you 30.
And yet the minimum could have been 30 even then.
Yes.
And more importantly, the mechanism for ensuring that money leaves the National Treasury and goes where it should go without you having to bring in your Kiswahili.
Yes.
Yes. The money going to the judiciary as it should, the money going to the devolved units as they should, without somebody saying, well, if if Miss didn't agree, or if Miss was on a weekend break.
Or saying, I don't have money.
None of those stories. See, they left out the key issues that could have unlocked this whole thing. So the discussion would have been very different. Meaning, if money is allocated to you, you get it.
Period.
You get it. Then now we come and ask you, this money which we gave you, what did you do
with it? What did you do with it?
Yes.
Now we can't, because
actually we can't.
Our governor will tell you, governors are telling you, we have not received money for the last 4 months.
What discussion?
The allocation that we have received goes up to January. We are in June. So really, how can you ask a governor, what have you done?
What kind of development have you done?
You can't ask.
You can't ask.
And they're telling you we're thinking of sending people home because we can't pay them.
We can't pay them.
So even the story of, the previous years, the money you got, you keep quiet about that story.
Our biggest problems in the country, even as we talk about BBI and trying to fix our problem is not in terms of our voting. Our problem is not in how we think or how we plan. Our current problem is our current crop of politicians. This generation of top leadership that we have currently, all of them, bar none, even these ones who are saying that their regions have been left out in the handshake and yet they are co-wives of the bigger wife. All of them, that's where the problem is.
Bar none.
Bar none. BARNONE.
All of them.
Got it.
Problem. All of them. Because they still think.
Monday morning.
Sheesh.
My goodness. Because that's where the when they come together and they want to show that if we expand these seats at the top, they'll make sure that we don't fight, and then we'll also guarantee that more communities are going to benefit from the national cake. That is a problem. The problem, it is them. If we basically just said, I vote, since 2017, I have not voted for a president that has won an election. I'm okay. Not 2017, since 2013, 2007. 2013, my candidate did not win. 2017, my candidate did not win, and I voted twice. And I'm okay.
How is business supposed to happen in this country? And even going on to further conversations, because I know you're looking at me and saying, why are you talking now? It's going to 8 o'clock. How is business supposed to be done in the country when the implementation and system are not working in congruence?
Because business is taking place with the individuals we are speaking of. Because their business is looting the country and looting the coffers of state. That business is ongoing. So
business of the country. I'm talking about the people.
I am trying to explain to you.
I know there's certain categories of
why
business.
Why would they be concerned about this other business? The other business deals with the dregs, whatever remains, and one doesn't have much use for.
Then
that's
that one is for you.
That goes the development of the country.
As far as those leaders are concerned, their business is the business of the people.
Yes.
But
Yes.
As far as they are concerned.
Did you not hear the speech?
I heard
the will of the people.
Ask me now, I know. But I'm telling you right now, those are things, and I'm going to use a friend's very favorite phrase, that are nuanced. But the reality of the situation is that it is not for the people.
I can see Amani has been on the line. Amani, once we hear the news and then we do the traffic, we may pick your call. Stay on the line. Good morning. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Thank you very much also for all the comments coming in on social media, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are live streaming the show. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The development projects being implemented in Nyanza by the government is being seen as negotiated by Raila Odinga courtesy of a handshake. Western Kenya leaders now accuse Raila of forgetting them and taking everything instead of ensuring that the western region that has supported him and allegedly made him who he is gets a piece of cake.
Raila Odinga is where he is because of our votes, and he has forgotten to represent the people of Western region. How I wish when he sits on that table of handshake with the president, he should be able to articulate issues of Western region. You have two wives. If you buy meat, you take 1 kg to the wife belonging to the Luo community, another kg to the wife belonging to the Luo community. Why should you take all to one wife?
Political analyst Herman Manyora, however, absolved Raila of any wrongdoing, urging the Western leaders to up their game and negotiate with the government on behalf of their people.
If Raila uses his political power to get something for his people, you can't blame him. You can only blame yourself. Ndebadi should also accumulate sufficient power and become resourceful enough with the Wetangula to force their way into the center stage of this country.
Governor Wycliffe Oparanya is inviting President Uhuru Kenyatta to visit the region so they can discuss how to implement plans on ground.
Na ndio tunataka rais mwenyewe akuja hapa vile amekuwa Kisumu. Wakati alikuwa Kakamega tulikuwa na Mashujaa Day 2019. Hatukuwa na mipango vile tumekuwa na mipango saa hii.
We recorded 166 new COVID-19 cases from a sample size of 3,561, this marking a positivity rate of 4.7%. Health Ministry says the total confirmed positive cases are now 172,491. Counties with the highest numbers are Nairobi with 48 new cases, Uasin Gishu 21, Nyeri 18, Busia 17. Police in Matungulu, Machakos County are investigating in death of a man, a teacher, and whose body was recovered from a pond near his home. Nguluni Assistant Chief Paul Ngialuka said the teacher was reported missing last Friday and his body was found inside the pond, with reports saying that he might have been killed elsewhere and his body dumped there. Defending champions Bandari FC thrashed Galagala TTI 5-0 to cruise into the quarterfinals of the FKF Cup, with Benjamin Mosha hitting the first half brace to spark the demolition. Despite making some changes in the starting squad, Bandari started the match on high note, as in form Mosha scored just about 4 minutes with a fine solo move. Mosha turned creator feeding Wilberforce Lugogo, who scored the second, and the two combined again as Mosha got on the end of the teammate's corner kick to score the third with a powerful header. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
All right, it seems that folks are on their toes still because of that bad accident that happened on the southern bypass yesterday. I think it's a good thing. Everybody needs to be careful while applying those routes today, so please watch out for it. I beg you now, follow me, Toko. Thika Road doesn't look too good right now. The service lanes are not as they were before. Before I told you to use them, now I'm telling you not to. Stick to the highway. At least you'll get there later. But those who are trying to get off the service and get them back onto the highway are then being frustrated. Kibao. I like that. Okay. Mombasa Road as well, coming from Cabanas heading out towards General Motors is also slow. The ICD route will do you wonders as then you head out towards the Langata Road exit. You want to use that as well. Coming out of Westlands into the CBD right around the University Way roundabout, that's looking pretty good. Langata Road, different story. I know it's one we can tell you, but Langata Road is a mess already. We'll look at details of that later, shall we? SpiceFM KE. Talk to us on Twitter. Text us well on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Monday morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only
It's
way
5
to
minutes
start your
after
day.
8. Kenya's biggest conversation. We thank you very much for tuning in this lovely Monday morning. It's the 7th day of June. We live stream the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and we are also on www.spicefm.co.ke. For the next 50 minutes or so, we're also live on KTN Home. A very good morning to our audience on KTN Home. CT, today's proverb.
You cannot turn the wind, so turn the sail.
You cannot turn the wind, so turn the sail. Kweli kabisa. Kweli kabisa. In the last hour, we were talking about what's been happening since the president's tour of Nyanza region recently. And then, started off with leaders from Nyanza coming to pay the president some homage and saying, Mr. President, thanks to the handshake, because of what we are seeing in the region, but also we have this list of things that you can still do. And the president saying, tutafanya hiyo, msijali. And now, the other leaders of the NASA coalition, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, are apparently, according to the headline in the Standard this morning, under pressure to deliver the presidency so that their regions can also benefit. And the question we're asking ourselves is, in this day and age, in this country, we are still there, where we talk about the president going to State House so that he can bring the goodies back to our village. We have Amani, who's been holding on. She'd like to contribute to this. Good morning, Amani.
Good morning, Eric, and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I hope you got your Huduma card.
Story.
The Huduma card is there.
Amani, don't let him even try. Story. Story.
For Lenny. Good morning.
Good morning, Amani.
Thank you. You did a great job when the boss was out of town. Attempting to get a Huduma card.
Without the card, he's back.
Okay. CT, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. And how are you? I was about to say good morning, madam. Then I realized some people don't respond very well to being called madam in the morning.
I'm supposed to.
I didn't know that.
Madam.
Okay. Eric, I'm sending you a credit card. I mean, not a credit card, a debit card or debit note for keeping me on the phone, my airtime.
Usijali, Amani. With a handshake. We'll sort it out.
In fact, we'll even get you a new phone.
Yes.
Thank you. I would appreciate that one. Okay. To contribute to the conversation, I think that our politicians are largely tribal chiefs. They have a tribal chief mind. And therefore, we're talking about a tribal culture that we generally have within this country. We are not nationalists. Even the supposed people's president is not a nationalist. If he was, he wouldn't do the things he does. Okay? So I think that's the starting point, the foundation that we are operating from. And from the beginning, when the 2010 Constitution was established and promulgated, there were these very serious voices that kept telling us that the government of the day actually wants to defeat devolution. They're not interested in devolution. And when you see BBI, you can see the concentration of power being centralized again in the executive. And you can see that what they were telling us was not just a fairy tale, but a reality. You whittle away the powers of devolution, because we have this almighty presidency that some people have refused to let go of. And that's where the problem is, generally, with all our politicians, starting from the CEO all the way down. You have to be politically correct, which means you're kneeing and toeing to whoever the CEO is of the day, which is totally unacceptable. And again, we use the wrong terminologies to talk about development. Development is not a village thing. It's not a selective county thing. Development is national. When you use the word development, that's how it must be defined. That the development is across the board, across every part of this country. Anything else is not development. Yeah, it is just a carrot being swung in somebody's face. Yeah. And so that is totally not anything you can describe as development.
That's true.
It's like you're giving sweets to your children. Oh, Charlie, you're a good boy, so here. Here's the chocolate bar, all right? As for you, Sheila, you didn't do well enough today, Sheila, so go to your room and keep quiet.
It's a carrot. Basically just dangling. Thank you very much, Amani.
Thank you, guys.
Have a lovely day. You too.
Thank you.
Ali in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Muga.
Vipi kaka, uko mzima?
Today.
Niko sawa baba, na wewe je?
We are very happy in Mombasa. We have cloudy and very cold weather over here.
That sounds like excellent weather for Mombasa.
Oh, exactly. We call Italy, Milano weather. That is very cold.
Okay.
Madam Sheila, can I wake you up a little bit? The lady put you into the store.
Into the store?
I think you are doing a great job, you and Siti Muga.
Asante sana.
And the question is, there can never be always a win-win situation. There's one winner and one loser. So if today you are a loser, never mind, tomorrow will be a big winner than Siti Muga. What I'm trying to say, I will add up to Amani, is that when we choose to have institution in our country, I'm not going to talk about people, I'm not going to talk about anything. I'll try to touch a little bit on constitutional matters. When we see the issue of development, is that we as Kenyans have given powers to the institution of presidency by the way of voting it. And the second one is that we have given the powers to the institution of the presidency to manage our country by paying taxes. Where I come from, taxes is the one that makes development all over the country.
The party.
When Muga decided to take that taxes of all the country and decide to put it in one place, that is against the institution's morality. Because the institutions you are given was to divide equally the development. In any way, be it building a stadium or building a factory or building a road or making sure electricity is at the village, you have to do that equally according to the taxation that you have collected.
That's true.
My question is, when you set a presidency and you say, Muga, I'm in your house now, can you try to take advantage of me so that I can make sure you don't pay an electricity bill? I'll put you a solar panel. That is going against the what we call Kiapu Ulikula, because you're not supposed to tell only Muga. Kila is there, everybody is there.
Should be everybody's president. Very good points there you've made, Ali.
Yeah?
Very good points there you've made. Asante sana.
Now I want to put it in on an economical perspective. You put a super highway and you leave the northern corridor, the road from Mombasa to those countries up to the Western African countries, a place like Mariakani and the Maderas. This place, if you've been able to travel by bus, and it is the day where the trucks are getting out of the port, you might end up having 2 hours at Maderas and another 2 hours at Mariakani, as if you have traveled 3/4 of the kilometers or a half kilometers from Nairobi to Mombasa. Why can't we put development on those areas so that we can have a lot of taxes by lorries going up and down, where the levy bill on the fuel can increase and we don't need it to ask for money from either local partners or development partners in terms of feeding our budgetary allocation.
Good points. Thank you very much, Ali. 0719-012-600. Those are the numbers to call. We'd like to hear from you. We're talking about development and what is the role of the national leader in development at the local level, or even in dividing development. So that whole conversation that we started with John, devolution, 2010 constitution says devolution, we're devolving power, we're devolving functions, we're devolving development, we're devolving decision making, so that it's all factored and centered at the local level. On paper, those parts of the constitution that talk about devolution, the objects of devolution and everything, very well said. But then the critical parts of implementation of, or the realization of that, are still those that were being discussed in Naivasha by the political leaders in 2010 in writing the constitution. And those are still the ones that we see. Such that you have elected a governor, but this governor does not have much power to determine how much money comes to them for development. That determination is basically being made by the national leader and the National Assembly and the Senate. So the national leader just needs to make sure that the National Assembly is aligned.
So devolution
and he dangles the carrot.
Devolution is being practiced and implemented in Kenya by name only. The critics of the current state of affairs would tell you that the custodians of devolution, who are the governors right now, are just the custodians by name alone. Because essentially what is happening now is that money is being released from the national treasury to the counties in order to fill the wage. It's for wages. Because in terms of development, if you come back and say, well, I would like to do this, but my hands are tied. I mean, I'm not able to do more because if I need development to happen in my area and I am not particularly aligned or associated with the powers that be, it is not going to happen. We've already established that that's a sad state of affairs. But if they themselves, one of two things could have happened. That one, you chose to be in this position and then chose to be mum about the real situation on the ground. That in as much as I am the manager of this county, I am the manager of devolution in this area, it is very clear that in terms of real implementation and complete assimilation of devolution, certain things need to happen. Those things are not happening. So if those things are not happening that would make devolution what it is, then devolution is not happening in this country. It is happening by name alone and it's not happening indeed. And that it should not matter what part of the country it is. It should not matter who sits in the executive. It should not matter who is the ruling party of the day. And that's why I agree firmly with what Amani said, that development is not about your particular area. If you're looking at national development, you're looking at that national development, and each area contributes to the national cake. You cannot say that we are developed because the president was from a certain part and then he was able to develop a certain area. You're not. You're as developed as your least developed part in the country. So if you want to talk about points in your development index and you have a part where there are no roads or no hospitals, no schools, you're just as bad as that area as a country as a whole. So when we're looking at this thing for real, perhaps the critics of devolution, the way it is currently happening in this country, are right. That it is not happening as it was envisioned to be. That because of the fact that a governor has to cry months on end that they have not received the allocation that they should, and this is just to pay salaries, and to keep things running as they are. You've not introduced anything new. You've not brought in new projects. The ones that you wanted to do, you've put them on hold because the money cannot essentially come to you. You're basically there to make sure that the budget that you're given is running. That's it. You're just managing what is available.
You're a manager of budget.
Yes. But in terms of developing the area, which is one of the key roles of devolution, it is not happening. So I don't think we need to deceive ourselves. Truth be told.
But at what point then, I mean, where is this gap emerging? You as a governor have traversed the county, you have sought votes, you've been elected to become the governor of the county. Your position is secured in the constitution. You as a president has gone round the country, same way, similarly, and you've been elected to become the head of government and head of state as well, the national government. Now, when these two leaders are meeting, because we talk about, even if you go to the Council of Governors today, they'll tell you we have got 48 governments, one country. 47 county governments and the one national government. 48 governments, one country. You know, it's like there should be
congruence.
Yes, and they're all equal. We sit down as the Council of Governors and the leader of the national government, and we are discussing what needs to happen in this country. The issue of how much money is going to go to the counties, how much money is going to be shared up between the national government and the county government is determined by one organ called the IBEC. And this is the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, where Council of Governors meets with the national government and they discuss, they say, okay, 436 billion shillings in the next financial year. Why is it that the governors cannot ask for more? Why can't they push for more? Why can't they say, you know what, because of what we are seeing, number one, we need more of these resources, more of these functions. We have taken up more of the functions according to the schedule of the Constitution, so we should be receiving more money. Why can't they push for more? It's because they are not equal. They approach that meeting with a feeling and mindset that the president is superior. And that is a conversation that they are not also willing to let go of. Because why? Because they are aligned to a political leader who's at the top, who helped them to become the governor. Everybody else, apart from the president, owes their sort of position to that one national leader.
So
which is
in
why I was
order
saying,
to get the job done, that
those
you have
guys
to kiss
at the
the
top.
ring.
Yes. Go around the country, all the 47 county governors, each of them is either aligned to Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi. Those five. Either of those five. Banan. No governor can actually come here and say, I'm independent. I have no strings attached to any of these five that I've mentioned. So they go to that meeting. If it's President Uhuru Kenyatta who's chairing the meeting, then you are governor because the president, you are in the president's party. You're on the right side of Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta during the campaigns. You're sitting there, it's the Deputy President William Ruto who's chairing this IBEC meeting. You owe your position to the Deputy President. So for as long as that is how we are,
then this is the state of things.
Actually, no, not necessarily.
How is it going to change?
Not necessarily.
If you're paying allegiance to a certain crop of people.
Politicians do that the world over.
And yet they're able to get their job done in some other parts of the world.
Because they have an additional allegiance to their constitution or
And
maybe to
their
the rule of
people.
law. And no, once you have an allegiance to the constitution, the rule of law, you'll have an allegiance to your people. So that, yes, they have allegiance to their party. Yes, they have allegiance to their president. They have all that. But when it comes to the law, they will simply not say allegiance is all good.
One side.
Perfect
But-
example.
Yes.
I think it's great, CT, that you say that. Because if you look at and maybe some would say it's not a good example, but if you look at the example of the US, right? Federal system, every state has its governor. Each governor aligned to a party. You have the blue states, you have the red states, aligned to their party.
And it's known.
Everybody knows where your association is, but you will never see a situation. Maybe you would see, and then obviously that would be blown out into proportion, and you would have some prosecutorial elements coming into play. But the rule of law overrides any kind of alignment or association that you have. The national ethos, the unification of people, the work that you must do in honoring the Constitution, for example, overrides any association or alignment that you would have. So nobody ever has to beg the question, it never comes up that, okay, were the people protected here? Was the Constitution being obeyed? It never comes to play. But your alignment or your association is never questioned either. With the sole and foundational realization that it is for the Constitution and the people that we're here. Even as we are aligned, we have a job to do. And I think that's what's missing in this local scenario that we have here.
You also
that the Constitution and people actually don't come into play.
You also have a
you
civil
and your supreme
service
leader.
in some of these countries that truly is a civil service. It functions for the good of the people.
Of the people.
And they will even tell the president, say,
This
sir,
one you're overstepping.
Sir, this is how it should go. That is why those counties don't have to keep discussing how they're going to form a committee to go and see their president. They don't need to. In fact, if they're having a conversation, they will look for that civil servant who's in charge of that and say, look, we're having problems with this. And the problems had better align themselves to the rule of law. But it brings in a different conversation. Huh? We've seen the disparity in development, especially with specific governors. Disparity here, I'm defining it, meaning governors who have used whatever they have to actually make a difference, and a big one in their counties, and those who haven't. Perhaps when we look at leaders, we sometimes forget that we may be demanding more than they're capable of doing.
Okay.
No. I mean this in all seriousness. Because somebody may be exerting their full capacity. Somebody may be an excellent politician, but a damn useless manager. But because they're a good politician, you'll vote them in.
Yep.
But this job requires management skills as well, which they don't have.
So it's the proverbial thing of that you're judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree, whereby it would perform very well in water. You can't expect it then to climb a tree.
Which is very,
and it
very
would
important.
Fail. So here you are saying that this individual could have politicked brilliantly. They could have been able to amass crowds and get people to follow one particular ethos. But when it comes to administration, for example, or lobbying or things like that, this person would be a failure.
But there's yet another failing. It's not just that. Huh? Deep within the ethos of our politicians, they look at the law and its interpretation from an expedient perspective, not in its absolute form. No, they don't.
Yep.
All these individuals we speak of, the law, they say it and they'll speak about it. But when they speak, you think they're speaking what you think. No. They're speaking expediency into that conversation, what they think would be suitable.
For them, no doubt.
Yes. And that again points to the same thing I'm saying, capacity. Sometimes you are looking for 100% and what you're seeing is 30, and that's their capacity. Honestly, they are not going to do 35. It doesn't matter what you do.
I actually don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that leader exposing their incapacity, because that's the reason why you have a 5-year cycle. You're able to look at them. You're able to look at, this is what the job required. This is what the person promised. And now we are assessing and seeing they are not able to do the job. So remove them and bring somebody else. Perfectly in order. You'll be able to say, I am voting you out. I'm bringing somebody else because I have realized that this job is far bigger than your capacity to deliver. Now, that is one. The bigger problem that I have is very many times we will see somebody who does not have that capacity to actually do the job, but because they're very good and they're very well oiled and they're very close to the national political honcho,
they're well aligned.
They are well aligned. They will get that job again, and so they will always fight. To them, their allegiance is not to these things that you guys are calling what law.
It is to the
constitution, to the people. No, as long as May and City are in good books.
The voter is irrelevant as far as they're concerned.
Yes, City will influence the voter to vote for me.
Eric, the point you make about the 5-year cycle is excellent, but the likelihood of electing a similar kind of animal is the bigger reality here. What I was thinking of, even as we're discussing this, was considering something very simple when you're talking of capacity. Forget the development projects this person has done. Forget that one. That one is a campaign tool, okay? Forget the lies even, because the lies don't make him a lie. It just means that he's somebody who likes using lies as a facilitation tool. Look at this person's capacity to delegate and to listen to other people's perspective and take it a step further and implement. Because somebody who is not willing to do that, you may even have people in all those positions, but they're going to be demanding that those people do exactly what they tell them. So the independence we speak of, whether it's the judiciary, which is independent by law, whether it's parliament, you will find a consistent interference by the executive in these arms of government because of this understanding that these are independent at their behest.
Yes.
Not completely independent, and not only not completely, never completely independent. Now, that to me is the dangerous thinking. Because it doesn't matter how many other people we keep voting in or bringing in, but if that is the national outlook that the leaders have, and they peddle all these narratives so that we elect them in, not only will we see the same thing repeated, we may see something worse.
Yes.
Something much worse.
8:30, time for us to take another break and say, very good morning to you. Take a look at the weather and the traffic and see what else is happening on the roads this morning. The whole issue of the expressway and the construction of the expressway and the madness that people go through every weekday morning is something that even Kenha is aware of. But let's see how the roads are. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday? Cash, of course. What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Sunny conditions in Nyeri at 15, highs of 22, lows of 12. 13 will be the low in Nakuru today. It's mostly sunny at the moment at 16, it'll go to highs of 25. 25 will also be the high recorded in Eldoret. It's mostly sunny at 13. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu at 20, going to highs of 28 today. It's sunny in Kakamega at 20, highs of 29 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 25 in Mombasa, where it's mostly cloudy, and go to highs of 30 today. 29 high in Malindi. It's raining in some parts at 28. It's also raining in Kampala at 23. Highs of 26 and lows of 18. Dar es Salaam is mostly cloudy at 25 with highs of 31 today. It's 3 degrees in Johannesburg. The temperatures are dropping. It's foggy through today, highs of 14. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 24, highs of 32. We'll see highs of 33 and mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa. It's currently at 22.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The Blue Post flyover on the Nyeri highway this morning. There's a bit of a snarl up there. Not too terrible, but folks heading in that direction should know what lies ahead. All right. Outer Ring from Taj Mall and the North Airport Road area. It looks like that's going to be some time in the waiting because of the traffic that we see there. Jogger Road looking much better now from Hamza. Headed out towards Landis Road into the city. Okay. Southern Bypass is not bad this morning. It's looking good. The exit at Langata Road, however, we're going to see some traffic headed out then towards the city at the roundabout at T-Mall also. It's a bit slow. Bagathi Way will do you some good as you then get towards the roundabout at the city mortuary. Use that as an option to get onto Ngong Road and then out into the CBD. Let us know what is happening in your site. Text us on 40127. Tweet us, SpiceFMKE.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
5 minutes to 9. The conversation continues. This is a Situation Room on Spice FM and KTN Home. In the room with you this morning is Eric Latif, Nduoko, CT Muga. So I was away for 2 weeks and I think you guys started spreading some malicious rumors, unfounded rumors.
Malicious even?
Yes.
Of what do you speak?
Why is it that everybody's asking me about the Huduma number?
Because you said you were going to go. You with your mouth.
I didn't say I'm going away to go and pick the Huduma. I said one of these days I'll pick the Huduma number. Did I not? So Jackson is asking, if I may ask, did Eric come with the Huduma number that he went to collect?
Story. He did not.
My Huduma number, the last time I checked, is still at the Westlands DO's office. I will go and collect it. They have not given me a deadline that, if you don't come by this day, we are going to destroy it. I will go and collect it. I know it's my Huduma number. It's mine.
Just like the president knew that he needed to appoint the judges.
Yeah.
In terms of timing, nobody ever told timing. I'll do it. Relax. So Eric has basically said, just like that, I will pick it.
I applied for Huduma number on time. I received communication from the Huduma number people. The first time they asked me, where do you want to collect it? I said, Westlands. They told me, okay, it's at Westlands. Go and collect it. And I said, fine.
And then they told you another story, didn't they?
No, they haven't.
Eric has not gone anywhere.
What about the announcement that they were going to take it to your ancestral home?
Those are the people who had not received the first
Those are the
message.
people who did not say Westlands.
Yeah, the people who didn't say Westlands. Anyway, national development and whether a cake is actually being shared nationally or whether a cake is being shared in accordance with where the leader of the national government comes from and who he favors. Is that what we see, or is it just an unfair accusation on the president? So, for example, while he was talking about, that whole area from getting into Mombasa and coming out of Mombasa, but there's been an entire road network that started and is now being completed.
Yes.
That takes people into Port Reeds, into the port, and remove the trucks from some of these highways. Can we really say that, that is because the president is so focused on developing one region of the country as opposed to another region of the country?
You see, that's the thing I was saying, that once there is a sticking point for your argument, regardless of other truths that may appear, you're not going to use those, obviously, because they will be of detriment to your argument. And the truth of the matter is that even if there's development happening in a particular area where there's some kind of political alignment, that there is still development happening in other parts of the country, but will you use it to further your argument? Of course you will not. It doesn't make sense. That my argument here is that I am saying that there is development going on in Nyanza, and that is because the president is in a handshake agreement with Raila Odinga. Does that mean that development has ceased in other parts of the country? Of course not. It is still going on.
Is development going on in other parts of the country?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it going on at the same pace as some parts of the country?
And what is the required pace in terms of kilometers per hour?
Uniformity.
No, there's no uniformity. I think the uniformity that you're speaking about would be equitably because,
okay, if you want to say uniformity and you talk about ports, how many places in this country are there water bodies that you can now develop a port?
Infrastructure development in terms of access. So there's the port and there's the port. And then there's a road that connects those ports. And there's a road that brings you goods from your shamba to the market.
And there are parts of the country, Eric has a valid point. There are parts of the country that produce more goods to the shamba and to your stomach more than other parts of the country. Do they have sufficient road networks to make this possible? I am back with Nyandarua again because that particular
is Nyandarua in Mount Kenya?
Yes, that particular part of the country can actually feed this country. That particular part of the country. There's hardly anything that doesn't grow there. Road network. That is, if you can see the movement of my hand.
Water accessibility, not in all
again,
parts
you can see the movement of my hand. Yes.
Yeah, go on. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Eric.
Good morning to you. How are you?
Niko salama, Sidi Andu.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, welcome back, Eric. I can see you are now energized.
Kabisa.
It seems you made some road trips around the country.
Yes. He did.
So what you are asking, I think you are looking for a mugging scheme.
Tumpatie moja.
Yes, I think I've heard many callers, and what they are saying is the truth. That development comes in hands with who is at the limelight. And who do you associate with? For the last 3 days, I was privileged to be in Nairobi, though that weather is very harsh to me.
The Nairobi, what? Weather or water?
Weather.
You're used to Wajir weather?
Yes.
Okay.
And I could see some areas like Saudi B, Bellevue, a lot of construction going on. Same in Kiambu. But when you go to other parts of Mount Kenya, there is nothing going on. And when we say Mount Kenya, I think Mount Kenya is the end. It's either east or west. I don't know if there is west. City can tell us. But the entire Mount Kenya, apart from Kiambu, the developments are stuck. Now, if you are traveling to the Western Kenya, development is only at Kisumu, not even Nyanza. And that's why when you say that some governors can be elected because they can be like, you see, the Damak Road in my neighborhood is because of me. So they have credit because all those guys were in State House. So what we are learning, or what we will continue learning, is that the person who is at the power directly translates to the development in your region. So, and if you associate with.
So right now, is there development in the North Rift?
There is no development in the North Rift.
Why?
You can see, because right now we are not in good terms with the president.
Was there development between 2013 and 2017?
Yes, development was going on, but we wasted our chances.
So the tap
For example, in the tap tried. In Nandi County, we had, in the first 2013-2014, we had almost around 40 kilometers tarmac road. And then between 2016-2017, another 30 was added. That's close to 70. From there, nothing went on. Because our leaders missed adjourned. They missed on how to negotiate. Instead of negotiating on development, every door which Uhuru makes to North Rift is that assure us if William Ruto will be president. If you ask this guy, why are you not asking development? I say, no, when our time comes, we will bring the roads and development. But for now, let us get application from president.
Okay, thank you very much for calling. So where are you today? Now that you're in Nairobi.
Today I'm in Matu with the family.
Okay.
Yes.
Have a lovely day and say hello to the family.
You too.
Ed Gitonga.
Good morning, guys. How are you doing?
Very well.
Good.
Welcome back, Eric.
Asante sana.
Yeah, nasikia ulikuwa unaandika autobiography. Now, here's the thing, huh?
Yes.
I'm going to give you two examples that I know of. One of development not going on because of the current political alignment of that person. And another development going on because of political alignment. I'm going to start with the negative first. In Nyeri, there's this stadium known as Orengo Stadium. Right now, it's still a livestock grazing area because groundbreaking started and nothing went. And then, kidogo tunaona sijui Kiloro Stadium is completed. Sijui the other one, Kenyatta Stadium in Kisumu. Political. If you're politically aligned or closer to the president or the people at power, development is going to come because akikohoa unaitika. Second thing, I'm gonna go to the development part. There is a town known as Kagio. Kagio was a shopping center for PS, internal security, Karanja Kebito. Uko ndo ushago kwao. The road to their home right now has tarmac. I'm telling you that because I have a friend of mine, before Karanja Kebito was PS internal, before he had the power, it was that road. It was Mara that road, Mara. But right now, it is tarmac. I am telling you that Ndudi inachukua 5 minutes to
Is it the only road in Kirinyaga County that has been tarmacked in the last 8 years?
Okay. I have said, again, as I said...
Because I want to bring that to you. You are going granular. So, for example, you're saying you in Nyeri and you're Mount Kenya, but then there is Orengo Stadium that has not been completed.
Yes.
And the argument is that the president comes from Mount Kenya. So how come Orengo Stadium has not been completed? And now an international stadium has been built in Kisumu.
Let me tell you why it was built in Kisumu. And I'm going to give you the people's point of view, okay? And that is some of us, how we think, okay?
Why it was built in Kisumu, okay.
Yeah, why actually some part of development is going on in Kisumu and other areas that maybe the president doesn't have much clout politically. The BBI thing. Serikali imewaletea this, and I can tell you it's going to be like this if you get BBI on the line. And that is why, by the way,
Did all of these projects that have been completed in Kisumu Nyanza, did they begin after the handshake?
They didn't begin after the handshake, but they were sped up after the handshake.
Oh, so the intent then is not what we are looking at, is that they were finished quickly because a handshake took place. That there was no intent to actually develop them beforehand.
Intent was there to develop them, but there's a very big difference between having intent and actualizing on the intent.
So what you're saying, Ed, essentially, is that had the handshake not taken place almost 3 years ago now, that today, as we speak, those development projects in Nyanza would not have been completed.
I stand by that.
Okay, Ed.
Wow, okay.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Mombasa and hear from Anthony and then Solomon. Anthony, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well.
Ndu City, how are you?
Fine,
we are well, thank you.
How is Nairobi?
Nairobi
cold.
Is kicking.
Waswahili wanasema mgala muue, lakini haki yake mpe.
Na umpe asubuhi ama jioni?
Bora apewe.
Asante.
I'm a great critic of President Uhuru's leadership. But when it comes to infrastructure, his cost. My only question is at what cost? Because when it comes to road network, let somebody, when people are giving some facts, let them have facts when they talk about some things. The nature of my work puts me privy to information from the Kenya, and I know the kind of road network that is being done in Kenya currently. And it is superb. It has touched almost every corner of Kenya.
So it's happening everywhere around the country.
Yes. And when you are doing road network, there are some factors you look at. You don't just go to a place, put up a tarmac road, a place that is not productive as per the places that are highly productive. You look at what is running the economy of Kenya. Nowadays, you have a road you can drive all the way to Turkana, all the way to Ethiopia. You can drive, you can go.
That's true.
Currently, there are projects going on in North Rift, everywhere there are roads being done. Because the company I work with, currently we have 6 projects going on, different corners of Kenya. People talk about Mount Kenya, and they can't just open their eyes. Keno, Sagana, Marwa Road. Where is that road going? Where is it?
It's going to Ethiopia.
Do courage. It's going to Nyeri. Then somebody in Nyeri says there is no development coming to Nyeri. The previous caller talked about a road that runs through Kagio town. That is my hometown. And we've really suffered, and that road was very, very necessary in cutting a long journey. If you want to come from Karatina, you want to go to Mwea, you would have to drive for about 1 hour and a half to make it there through the main road. That shortcut road that was done, it only happened to pass through Kidicho's home, but it goes past way to Mwea and helps a lot of people. That is an area that is highly productive, and it feeds Nairobi with tomatoes and other vegetables. The road was very necessary.
So bottom line,
the roads are being done.
Solomon, Anthony, as you're saying, is there's a lot of very many projects that are taking place across the country. It has nothing to do with Mount Kenya or Nyanza.
Every corner of Kenya has been touched.
Thank you very much.
Development is being done everywhere. That one I'm very sure of.
Thank you, Solomon. Solomon, good morning. That was Anthony.
Good morning.
I have 2.
That is Anthony.
I have 3 people from Mombasa. So that was Anthony. This is Solomon from Mombasa.
Solomon from Mombasa.
And next will be Esther in Mombasa.
Yes.
Hiya.
Eric.
Solomon, good morning.
How are you? Morning.
I'm fine.
Hey, inakaa unaota na mimi sana. Ungenipigia simu.
Yeah, kabisa.
Now, a lot of callers when it comes to politics and development of this Kenya, people are not factual. For example, you have to be aligned to the president for development. It's here or not there.
Yeah.
I live in Mombasa. I can only say something about Mombasa because this is something that I see. Since 2013 to date, a lot of roads are being done by the national government. New roads and dwelling of existing roads. During that time, is the president have been in good terms with Joe? No. Isn't it?
Yeah.
But the developments are there. Yeah?
Yeah.
So we cannot say that because we're in good terms with the president, development won't go there. Then secondly is, as the previous caller said, is depending on the population and economic factors, it will depend where the development go. For example, Mombasa can have more roads than in Malindi and Kilifi and say Kwale because of the economic activity that is within the Mombasa Island. Yes. But let people have facts.
Safi. Kweli kabisa. Let's go to still remain in Mombasa and hear from Esther. Esther.
Hi.
How are you?
Salimia Ndu. Hi Ndu, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Esther. How are you?
And Titi Mugatu, I'm fine. So I just wanted to comment something small. I've listened to everyone who is talking, and I'm thinking about how we elected all these leaders that are supposed to help with the bringing up of the effective implementation of all the work they've been given, all the work that we have given them. So first of all these leaders are qualified, whether by experience, whether they came from the other regime, whether they have been in all the regimes, and now here they are already in offices, whether they are in one ethnic group or another, that one is not my concern at all. And we also have new blood, those new entrants. So we have a mixture of leaders. We don't have a TCG Nani from where. We even have inclusion, what we call inclusion. So my only issue, what I want to say today, like from my own point of view, is that Uhuru has excelled. Okay, that one is very interesting. Uhuru has excelled because what are we gauging him against? Me, I want to see that document where we are saying the president was supposed to have delivered this. We are gauging him against this.
Right.
And then, if we have qualified leaders, they have job deliverables. We chose them. We cannot complain when we have put people in power and then we are saying they have not done this in my area. Me, I come from all those different areas. Okay, I had this, what's his name? This guy of Kiharu, the MP of Kiharu. He did that is my other home, the other side. When I looked at what he had done, he could straight away say, this is money from this and this and this place. So I didn't know how it is gauged towards his deliverable. But he wrote it, even on social media. This is all the schools have done, and people are hailing him. He may not have been on the right side of the government, the favorable, but he is in the government. Yes, he used what he has. He is in the government. Actually, he is in the government, the current one. So he's delivering. You move to the other side of Uko Kwetu, Uko Malindi, come from Malindi to Lamu. How is that road? It is tarmac, but it is, ile inatetemeka, ina shake hivi. And I'm thinking there's a development in Lamu. How do you access it from Malindi smoothly without, I think you should just take a
without shaking.
Yes. Without shaking. And I'm thinking, budget allocation is made by who? Is it the treasury who makes it, or it is given now to these county governments that own themselves to come up with your budgetary needs? You propose it to whoever you're proposing it and to the treasury, then they give you. You can't come and say, I was not given. How? You come and show what did you do with it. So there should be monitoring evaluation, of which I know they are there. So the big question we should be asking ourselves is, road, water, food security, health, is it there? Can I access it now? Uhuru haezi kukuja hapo atujenge nini. He gives delegation to whoever he gives. So from my point of view, where I sit, I just say, the government has excelled. I cannot even fault it because there is nothing to gauge. So we will speak. It will turn over. Nothing. Just check at what you as the customer who is the Kenyan, you're getting. Naenda hosi ndio, napata dawa, hakuna dawa. Why? We should be asking those questions. Yeah. But we are afraid of our leaders. We are loyal. We are very loyal Kenyans, but very afraid of our leaders. Nobody can go and ask those questions to those big people. Never. They only go to say, I don't have land, I don't have title. Just go and ask them, what were you supposed to do when we chose you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Amani. Thank you. Esther Amani in Mombasa. Very good morning to you, and thank you very much for tuning in and contributing to the conversation. We want to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. You've been with us since the top of the hour. Join us again tomorrow from 8 to around 9 o'clock. But the conversations happen every weekday morning on SpiceFM. 94.4 in Nairobi, Mombasa, it's 87.9, 102.5 Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, 96.7 in Eldoret, 90.9 Nyeri, Malindi, 97.7, or you can live stream on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or www.spicefm.co.ke. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Okay.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Have basically said President Uhuru Kenyatta has delivered. Okay, was that the conversation? Or was the conversation about, is there equitable distribution of resources and initiation and completion of development projects around the country so that we can now go back and tell these leaders who are saying, no, you now, we need our person at the top, so that then we can also see the kind of development that we are seeing in the areas that President Uhuru Kenyatta comes from and where the opposition leader Raila Odinga comes from? Or is it all misplaced and unfounded?
The discussion about infrastructure development is premised on a simple understanding that with infrastructure, then everything else that people clamor for and require and desire and want to see will actually happen, because this is the structure and the platform from which you can now springboard all these things that we keep talking about. But then again, the problem with infrastructure is that the outcome and the benefits are not immediate term or short term. Many of them are long term. And the question one would ask is, in this era of COVID, is it absolutely necessary for us to continue with these projects that require, as we very well know,
some of them may be short term.
Yes.
Like what Anthony was saying, the farmers in Kagio want to access the market. They are growing food. Same thing. The farmers in Nyandarua, who currently have a lot of cabbages and potatoes and carrots and whatever else, vegetables that they have, they want to access the market. So as long as a road is done, for them the benefit is immediate. It makes the journey to the market easier. It makes the cost of transporting their goods to the market cheaper. It transforms everything immediately.
It is true. So it means that there are roads that are absolutely necessary for such. But the big issue is not those small feeder roads that lead to the main road.
It's the bigger ones.
It's the bigger ones which come from here to
like
there.
Like redoing a port.
Yes, and also costs from here to there. Yes.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. So there's a lot that's also been happening around the continent. Nigeria has told Twitter, go away.
For now. Initially it was go away. And then a few hours later it was for now. We didn't say we were banning. Initially it was banned. Now we're saying it was suspended.
Stay out there. We just go.
Is it them who told Tweet, or is it Tweet who told them?
In fact, it was interesting because they used the tweet to say
to tell
that Twitter don't come.
We discuss that in the next hour. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has downplayed rumours of a plan to oust him from office. Speaking in Embu, Muturi said it is not possible to oust him, insisting that he will continue with his duties as usual, as the process of removing him is not as easy as thought.
Najua hakuna kitu kia mambo ya kuimpeach speaker. Najua hiyo ni wale watu ambao hawajasoma taratibu za kudumu. Hakuna kitu inaitwa impeachment ya speaker. Speaker labda bunge lisipitishe mswada kusema halina imani na yeye. Hiyo tu. Tuliweka katika sheria zetu kanuni ambazo zinatakiwa kufuatiliwa. Na ziko wazi pale. Ule ambaye atafikisha ile threshold ajaribu.
This comes as Kungu Muigai, President Uhuru Kenyatta's cousin, insisted that Justin Muturi will be the voice of President Uhuru Kenyatta in Mount Kenya. The Kwale County Health Ministry has noted that only a small number of residents show up to take drugs for measles and mumps. Chief Executive Elizabeth Chomba said that despite the fact that the drugs are being provided free of charge, few residents have registered to receive them.
Sasa tunashangaa mbona wakati wa kupeana dawa za kuzuia matende na kichocho idadi ama wale wameandikishwa kwa nyumba wanasema ni kidogo, ikija kwa neti idadi inakuwa ni kubwa mpaka inakuwa wale ambao tunagawia neti wengine wanabaki hawana. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri pia hiyo idadi iwe imesawazishwa.
She is advising them to also take mosquito nets provided by the government to prevent the spread of other diseases, including malaria.
Kwa sababu gani nagusia mambo ya matende na mimi nahusika na mambo ya malaria? Ni kwa sababu hii neti ama vyandarua vya malaria vinasuia pia mbu ambaye anasambaza matende. Na njia moja ya kuzuia matende ni kulala ndani ya neti kila siku, kila msimu, na pia kumeza zile dawa ambao tunapata.
The leaders of the Dock Workers Union are today expected to hold a meeting to resolve tensions between the various factions of the union. Secretary General Simon Sang is expected to lead a meeting with some members who went to court to oppose a plan to use the 2016 election board in elections expected this year. According to Sang, they have already agreed to form a new electoral board in line with the wishes of those who have gone to court. If they agree, the case in court will be dropped and elections will be scheduled. Dutch long-distance runner Savannah Sun broke the women's 10,000 meters world record, clocking 29 minutes 6.82 seconds in the Continental Tour meeting on home soil. Ethiopia's Almaz Ayana held the previous record of 29 minutes 17.45 seconds set in the 2016 Rio Olympics, but Hassan shaved more than 10 seconds off that mark. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
All right, still building up on the Southern Bypass today. Taking your exits then on Langata Road. Not too smooth there after KWS, but then you get to the roundabout at T-Mall and it slows down considerably. You want to go all the way down and then use Aerodrome Road, or you want to use Bakadhi Way, headed out into the city. It shouldn't be too much of an issue, right? Okay, so let's look at other parts of the city. Mombasa Road still tight all the way to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. We also see that it's building up around Outer Ring going towards North Airport Road also. All right, so there's traffic everywhere you look. It's expected at this time. We're in the middle of traffic hour. Let's take a look at how other areas open up and talk to us as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. You can text us as well on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Dakika tano baada ya saa 3 asubuhi, City Muga, medali ya siku.
Okay. The medali of the siku. You cannot turn the wind. So, turn the sail.
All right. You cannot turn the wind, so turn the sail. Very nice one. It's a very nice one. So, Ndu, what's been happening to this place?
What do you mean this
of yours? Nigeria.
Okay, so a couple of days ago, the president and those around him got a little bit upset over the fact that Twitter then had been used to, what's the word? Castigate and cast aspersions as to his manner and style of leadership. And he didn't like this very much. Whereas he has been using Twitter in the past to make certain communications to the whole country about his development and his leadership, etc., etc. And so he decided, you know what? Also from the Ministry of Information and Culture, he then said, we're not doing this anymore. And so for now, what is going to happen is that we are going to ban Twitter use in the country. We will ban the existence of Twitter in Nigeria. But then, I think after all the hullabaloo over Friday, Saturday, the message now changed a little bit. And it became, all right, we're not banning Twitter per se. We are suspending Twitter indefinitely. And if you just look at some of the stories that have come out, right, the federal government has suspended indefinitely the operations of the microblogging and social networking service Twitter in Nigeria. So it was posted on the official Twitter handle on Friday evening, and it accused the social media company of allowing its platform to be used for activities that are capable of undermining Nigeria's corporate existence, Not to mention that it is not foreign individuals who are tweeting. It is Nigerians who are heavily tweeting about the state of affairs in Nigeria. Tweeting about what they would like to see. Tweeting about the change that we'd like to see in the country. And it would appear that the president was a little bit threatened and his administration a little bit threatened by this.
Was Twitter threatened by the president?
That if you don't do this, we'll do this.
No. Was it Twitter threatened by the president at all, by any of his actions?
Them as an entity.
Sorry, Eric, what do you mean threatened?
Because Twitter started by deleting a post
that he
by the
made.
president.
But what was the post?
The post was in reference to the war. The post was by a president that says this and the other, and Twitter goes ahead. So people complain about it breaching the community rules.
Yes.
Twitter removes it.
Well,
he's not the first one that happened to.
Yes, but it wasn't just the tweet. According to the report, the tweet was a threat to the people of
Nigeria.
Who determined that the tweet is a threat? Twitter.
Oh, Twitter, that's who determined it.
There are certain parameters within which you can tweet.
Yes,
there are certain things that they have put there that said, you know what, if you're going to use it, we ask that you carry yourself in this manner. That these are the things that we along the lines will allow you to say or not say. As a user of the social media site, we're asking that you do just this.
And also the threat was reference to the Biafran War of 1967. Now that isn't a small threat.
Okay, but where is the threat? You see, the issue is, at what point does Twitter determine that what has been shared is actually a threat to the people and what has been shared is not a threat to the people? Because if the president is making reference to the 1996, 67 to 70, the Civil War, and says those misbehaving today will be treated in the language that they will understand, is it clearly written in the rules of Twitter that says if you use the word treated in the language that they understand, that this is a violation?
No, but you have to have a little bit of
Twitter
history in terms of what happened during the Biafran War.
And of course, somebody like this general has a very, very good grasp of the history of what happened in the Biafra War.
Yes, but beyond that, a lot would say that actually did believe that things should have happened in the manner in which they did, and that an entire section of Nigeria should actually have been wiped out if they were talking about secession. That is what he actually does believe. As a former general, as a former army practitioner in Nigeria, there are those who hold that belief, that those who threatened any kind of secession in Nigeria should have actually been wiped out. Very dangerous sentiments to have. In that time, that particular group of Nigerians actually was on the brink of being wiped out. Now, when you use such language today, you're essentially saying that the same thing should happen now that happened then.
You see, that's
because somebody wants to come up and speak.
I'm coming from this, but I'd like you to understand. I'm coming from this point that Twitter should have a mechanism for having these matters determined. You cannot just sit and
no,
determine.
But there are terms and conditions now. When you
those
start and you want
terms and
to use
conditions are
the
not
site.
but they're not very clear on exactly. If you're saying use this word, use this word, use this word, that's violation. You see, when it comes to video content, for example, it's very clear. If you show video content of violence, that gory violence, especially against children or against people who are weak, that is clear. You can see. When it is language and the way the language is being used, you cannot just sit back and be the judge and jury and determine immediately what you want to do.
There are certain things
have
that
a
are
mechanism. Have a mechanism. Give the person an
certain
opportunity to go through some steps.
There are certain things that are inferenced by the way in which you speak. Here we joke about it all the time when somebody says, "Fanya hivyo nitakushughulikia."
And I
you
completely
think that they're
agree,
being
and
nice,
that's
that
why
they're going to buy you cake.
And why? Do you know what we have with that, Ndu? We have courts of law. We have a process. A process that determines that what you uttered, what you said, how you acted is in actual violation
and
of
the first
the law.
action that was taken is that tweet will be deleted, because I'm sure if you go back to the terms and conditions, you will find that if you use any language in a manner that is likely to suggest 1, 2, 3, then you stand at a risk of having your post deleted. They will give you terms and conditions. But do we read the fine print most times? No. They didn't do anything outside of what they had initially said that they would do.
They have done everything.
But because of the fact that it has touched the administration in the way that they don't like.
I am very sure if you go to Twitter, you'll find language that has been used by other people.
Buhari is not the first one who has had on the globe has had his tweets deleted, even had his account suspended because of language like this. Why is he the one who is shouting?
He is not. He also is not the only one who has used such kind of language or such kind of references to many things that have happened in parts of the world, but not all tweets have been deleted.
And not all his
That's
tweets
my
have
point.
been deleted now.
My
This
point is
particular
that
one
this
was
particular
deleted. Why?
platform and these platforms, these big platforms, Twitter, Facebook, and all the rest, are becoming the neo-dictators. They are becoming a point where they determine, you know what,
Everything
because
that Buhari
of the
has wanted
context
to
of,
say
there have been people
before,
who've
people
been
have called him
complaining
Twitter princess, this, that, the other thing. Everything that he has wanted to tell Nigerians before, he has used Twitter.
Yeah.
When NSAS was shouting, all the things that he said he wanted to do or did not do, is not the same Twitter that he used. Now, you're basically threatening people to tell them that the horrors that they faced in the 60s during this supposed cessation, that if they're not careful, you will suffer it today. Come on.
Yes, and what I'm saying is he has used those words, but...
Now, Twitter has said you can use those words, but don't use it on our platform.
The extent to which it becomes a violation, and that's why I'm saying the extent to which it becomes a violation should have a way.
The owner of the house has said,
we
don't want you to talk like that. It's their house now.
That's what I'm saying. That house owner is a dictator.
But you want to use it. It is our own. You want to use it. Don't operate like that.
And I am the president of this country.
Those are the house rules. You don't like the house rules, move to another house.
I am the president of this country, and this is how we shall operate.
And
I
also the platform is my own, and you've allowed me into your house.
Suspend the platform. I am the president of this country, and I have a constitutional duty and powers to actually take the action I've taken. What I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to say here is, what Buhari is doing and what Twitter are doing, those are operating in the same way. You cannot turn and call one a dictator and not call the other one a dictator.
Both of them are dictators, but in this case, guess what? It is the house. You want to use my platform that clearly before has been beneficial to you to pass a message to the rest of the country.
Now
and then you want to talk the way you want to talk anyhow.
No, suddenly now, because you feel that I'm no longer aligned
now,
to you.
There are rules. In the same Nigeria, there are things that you can or cannot do. And if you're not allowed to do, we remove you.
Let's talk to somebody who's in Nigeria. He's a policy analyst. He's a lawyer. He's in... what's that place called?
Ibadan.
It's written Ibadan, of course, but I'm sure it's not pronounced Ibadan as Ndu has.
Timmy Olagunju is in Ibadan, Nigeria, and he joins us now. Good morning, Timmy. Your line is still off. I think you've muted your phone.
Can you hear me? I said thank you for having me.
Yes, now we can hear you. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us as well.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I can see it's a heated dialectics over there.
Yes, so Timmy. Oh, yes, it is. I love the map behind you there. Is that a map of the modern world or the future world or the past world?
It somehow has Africa somehow in between it.
So, Timmy, a lot has happened in Nigeria in the last couple of days. First of all, just tell us the context. Let's start with this particular tweet that was deemed to be offensive, that was fired by the president of Nigeria, and then the actions that followed thereafter.
Okay. Properly speaking, the foundation of the issue, contextually, I've been more around the fact that the president, all his special advisors on online media, using the president's handle to the that he was practically reminding Nigerians of what happened between 1967 and 1970, and making reference to that particular occurrence and using that as a basis to warn a certain section of the country about certain actions or protests that are going on within that section of the country. And so Nigerians, which is basically Twitter's procedure, once there's a complaint about a statement, Twitter takes a proper look at it and then sees whether it's something to leave or take off. In that context, Nigerians reported that tweet as being inappropriate. And, when you look at that contextually, you need to look at the circumstance. When you talk about policy making, you talk about the environment of policy making. And so the environment in that context was firstly that there was Biafra Day was just a few days away. I think a day after Biafra Day, like some unofficial remembrance of that day was when the tweet was made. The president did not even particularly give, cognizance or inspire hope, in context of what that signifies to Nigerians, but rather use the messaging around it to make a statement of threat. And one thing is key. A leader is a dealer in hope. So in that context, the key question is, did the president's statement really inspire hope or fear? And so people complained about the tweet, and the tweet was taken down. And then a retaliatory response, was made by the Minister of Information to the effect that Twitter had to be banned because of that action. But now they are now coming out to say that that they've had issues with Twitter's approach and the likes, and because of that, they, aggregated issues. And those aggregated issues, they actually decided to ban Twitter. So I think that's the context of the circumstance at the moment here.
Okay. So I think hours after that, I think then we saw that initially it was a ban, Timmy, and then now the language changed and it became an indefinite suspension. So we're not saying never, but we're saying, all right, let's review some of these things. But Timmy, on the underside of things, what are we really looking at here? Because we had a president, if we just look at what happened a few months ago with NSAS, a lot of the communication from the same ministry, Lai Mohammed himself and others, who continued to use this social media platform as a way to communicate to people in Nigeria, now suddenly having an issue with it, that I can basically say as a leader, whatever it is I want, and there should be nobody who would be able to stop me from saying that. Whether or not your people are concerned about the manner in which, because Biafra, even 50 years later, is not a light matter. People still carry it on their hearts. And then we look at occurrences like NSAS, there is an amount of fear that the Nigerian people have. And we look at Muhammadu Buhari, who was a military leader in the same Nigeria when things were actually terrible when it came to freedom of speech and expression in Nigeria. And then you say things like this in current day Nigeria. Why would it be so bad if his language or in the way in which he spoke was curtailed? Why do you think he would look at it as a threat to him as a leader?
I think basically General Buhari, I think there's nothing presidential about it. General Buhari in that context, has a reputation, a foundational reputation of being what he is. And look, the economic woes that we have are quite attributed to his style of leadership, because when you talk about leadership, particularly governance, you talk about the leadership style or the policy style of the person.
We are losing you.
Yeah. He did setting policies, right? And those particular policies were still some of the images that people had of him. Mm-hmm. So when he was entering into office, right, some persons thought that, look, let's start our dollar. So this man has come, mm-hmm. right? So in the course of all that, somehow he did not also appoint his ministers early. He did not particularly make statements that would inspire hope in the business community. At the time, he started traveling with politicians. And then when business people try to come into the fold of the travel with him to world leaders, he would practically kick them out or sideline them from, such conversation. And that is not how, it should be, because basically, when the president is traveling, the president is supposed to, go with those that are considered business leaders, in your environment, so that you create a leeway between those business leaders and the leaders in that other place, because they are the ones that continue the conversation. But none of that happened. He was traveling with politicians, and then some of the business leaders try to find their way in and the likes, but they get kicked out of such entourage. So all that put together sent a signal to the business community that it seems this man is not going to, is going to just be the same person that he was in that context. And that led into a serious economic crisis where people started withdrawing. During the first 6 months of his entering office, there was a lot of withdrawal from the Fed, withdrawal in terms of foreign direct investment in Nigeria. Massive withdrawal of foreign direct investment, some withdrawal of foreign portfolio investments. And so, because of that large chunk of withdrawal of foreign direct investment, it cascaded into massive retrenchment in jobs because companies had to meet the bottom line. So you see that it is not just about, it's about the fact that the environment in which he operates sends a signal to, the Nigerian community that the people are coming from the NSAS situation. You see that the way in which the federal government handles it. So there is a great divorce between the government and the people. And so a leader is supposed to inspire hope, a dealer in hope. But in this context, the tweet rather inspired fear in the people. And so it is not surprising that there was massive reports of the president on Twitter. And frankly, this is Twitter's house. So the president coming to Twitter's house does not mean that he's above the law. They need to get that into their heads.
Okay. Timmy, I want to ask you, so with the statement, was this statement only posted on Twitter or was it also shared on other platforms? For example, was there a statement that was released and sent out to media houses? Was there a statement that was released and sent on other platforms apart from Twitter?
Okay, yes. The statement was shared across the president's social media handles, to the effect that whatever, is happening, that they can actually reignite. It's quite pathetic for a president to say they can reignite an open wound. Biafra is an open wound for a lot of Nigerians.
Okay.
And then reignite an open wound in that context.
I hear you. Where I'm heading with this question is that there was, yes, condemnation from the citizens of Nigeria on the content and context of this particular statement. Is there...
Yes, the context of the context.
Is there anything in law that gives the power to the people of Nigeria to take this matter up legally within Nigeria? So yes, Twitter is just one of the platforms that this statement was shared. But does the law allow the people of Nigeria to actually raise this issue, say, raise it in the Houses of Parliament, raise it in court, or in any other platform?
Fantastic question. Basically, by virtue of Section 308 or so of the Constitution of Nigeria, the president is immune from court proceedings, immune from actions that happen during his time in office, right? So you can only take proceedings, taken to court after he has left office. That is one provision that a lot of Nigerians are saying that, we need to kick out. So, frankly speaking, the only channel legally to be able to, get him on this matter to be accountable would have been through the National Assembly. By virtue of the Constitution, the National Assembly has powers of oversight functions, right? In that context, the National Assembly, which is made up of the Senate and the House of Reps, because we run a bicameral legislature at the federal level and a unicameral at the state level. So the House of Representatives and the House of Reps might have been able to perform their oversight function. But when you look at political expediency, right, and the political environment in which Nigeria operates, the National Assembly has been a toothless bulldog. It has not even tried to back, talk less of bite.
I wonder.
So you can see where the distrust came. So the only court of public opinion that the Nigerian people could rely on was primarily Twitter.
Okay.
You know, in that context. And currently, Nigerian courts are on strike, and the federal government is not even saying much about it. The courts are on strike in this country. You know, so it's quite pathetic that the third arm of government is on strike, and then the federal government and even the National Assembly are just taking their jumbo allowances and business as usual.
But then, Timmy, on the other hand, if you look at it objectively, would you say that the condemnation or reaction to this statement was uniform across the country? Would you say that objectively a majority of Nigerians have taken offense to the statement that was released by the president? Objectively speaking.
Oh, well, that might be a difficult question in the context of objectively, because you need facts. Evidence is the end of argument. So you need evidence of which is available to Twitter, you know, overwhelming number of people. But look, it seems like the overwhelming number of Nigerians were you know, condemning that statement of the president. Overwhelmingly, you know, because when the statement was made, even in conversations that you have with people, even on Twitter, there was widespread condemnation of that particular statement as being largely inappropriate. And look, it wasn't just only Twitter that took it off. Facebook also decided to take it off as hate speech, as violating the community guidelines. Right? So Twitter took it off. Facebook took it off. Then you start to see it's something beyond coincidence. You start to see that, you know, the evidence goes to the extent that the statement was mostly inappropriate, especially from someone who is the chief servant of the people. Because, you know, in Africa, most times, in most African countries and, you know, likely developing worlds, we seem not to understand the context of democracy, that the government is the employee and the people are the employer. You know, it's the vice versa. You know, and that's something that I think they've carried on board into their engagement with Twitter, not understanding that they come to Twitter's house and, you know, this is Twitter's rules. And this is not the first time President Trump was thrown out of Twitter. They pack your load and go, you know. And the U.S. government did not at any time say, oh, we're going to ban Twitter. Because it violates the very fundamentals of democracy to gag on tools that allow for freedom of expression. And it violates even the Nigerian Constitution, Section 39, subsection 1 and 3, and also certain treaties that the Nigerian government has signed to make policies that facilitate, you know, freedom of expression and tools that promote freedom of expression rather than restrict them.
Let's take a break at this point and then we continue the conversation. We are talking to Timmy Olagunju. He's a lawyer, policy analyst. He is in Nigeria. So Nigeria has suspended Twitter's operations for a while. The people of Nigeria are now accessing Twitter via VPNs and they're still able to do this. And this is following that whole standoff between the presidency and the microblogging site Twitter. 9:30, time for us to take a look at the traffic and the weather, and then we continue the conversation with Timmy. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 102.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu. Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress
The weather
our country.
with Spice FM.
All right, we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi today. We'll see highs of 20. In Nyeri, we see currently 15 degrees and cloudy conditions. Are likely to see highs of 25 in Nakuru, cloudy conditions through the day. It's sunny in Eldoret at 15. Partly cloudy conditions will go to highs of 26 in Kisumu, highs of 28 in Kakamega today. We will see then in Mombasa rain in some parts, highs of 30, highs of 29 in Malindi, and conditions of rain in Kampala. Currently at 26 degrees, will go to highs of 29. Dar es Salaam is sunny at 28, will go to highs of 30. Johannesburg still continues with a foggy morning at 4. 4 will also be the low for today. We'll just go to highs of 14. Lagos is cloudy at 24, highs of 32, and also highs of 32 in a rainy Kinshasa this morning. Beijing looking out, we'll see highs of 28 today, really sunny day. Highs of 26 in Paris, cloudy conditions currently. 16 degrees in London, we'll go to highs of 26. And New York now coming into Monday morning, 17 degrees, going to highs of 26 and lows of 19.
Spice up your life.
All right, still some traffic. We're looking at it on Kiambu Road now. Not so bad. The bulk of the crazy morning traffic has actually ended now. And as you join the Thika Superhighway, shouldn't be too crazy. All right, let's look at Langata Road, where a lot of the traffic is this morning as you're heading out past KWS and then through to the T-Mall roundabout. Not too bad. All right. Folks are asking for introduction of bumps on the Southern Bypass. That will stop the accidents that we are seeing currently. Okay, for some reason, people are stuck on James Gishuru for the last 1 hour. What is the problem on Wayaki Way? Still to find out what's going on now. There's also on the other side, serious overlapping, major traffic jam on the Naivasha-Riara Road. It's not moving today. Okay, so those are the trouble spots that we still see even after traffic hour. The Eastern Bypass also, we have some problems. Let's keep an eye on things this morning through the day. Talk to us on SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
How awesome
Spice up your life.
I am awesome. Not asking, telling. And so are you, sweetie. And so are you, Eric Latif. And Samsung wants us to remember just how awesome we are. I told you previously about the A32 series. Now, let me tell you a little bit of something about the A52 series, okay? The A52 now, the bigger brother of the A32, whereas the A32 could do some great things. Now, the A52 steps it up just a notch, okay? Now, what are you able to do with this particular phone? Again, capture those incredible moments through pictures. A new design, minimal front camera, awesome pastel colors. People will be wondering what it is that you have in your hand. With an even bigger screen of 6.5 inches. It's a full screen, allows you to take fantastic pictures at a long range. Charge your phone once and talk for 2 days. 50% charge from zero on the in, just 30 minutes into a charger, and you have some great power saving. And guess what? You're having a drink and you spill something on your phone. It's water resistant, and I think it's absolutely great. And guess what? If you should drop this phone a few days after you buy it, Samsung Care will replace your hardware for free, of course during a limited time, at any Samsung Care outlet. Free, great original Samsung products, and you don't have to pay anything out of your pocket. A52 allows you to be awesome and me to be awesome, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. right.
All right.
94
minutes to 10 o'clock. We continue the conversation. Nigeria has indefinitely suspended Twitter's activities because of persistent use, what they're calling the persistent use of the platform for activities that are capable of doing what again? Very many things to the country. So we're having the conversation with Timi Olagunju. He's a lawyer and policy analyst. He is in Nigeria, in Ibadan.
Very good.
I got it right. So as we were going to the break, Timi, you were saying there are very many things that the people of Nigeria took with the statement that was released by the president. The president, on the other hand, there's a lot of things that he has done recently, said and done that are basically not endearing him to the people. So the question then I'd ask is, can we say that the president is becoming hugely unpopular in Nigeria? And if that's the case, what are the next steps for the people?
Oh, fantastic question. In terms of his unpopularity, that would have been tested more in terms of much more urgent reasoning, statistics or evidence through the impeachment process, right? So it might be difficult to be able to say with all that's okay. It's getting popular or unpopular amongst Nigerians. Some sections, of Nigeria might necessarily feel that, okay, it's popular amongst them, and some might not. But to a large extent, when you see what is happening in Nigeria, Nigeria is increasingly getting much more divided than it used to be. The primordial sentiments are beginning to surface much more. The lack of trust has increased. In fact, in the current ranking of failed states in the world, painfully so, Nigeria now ranks 14, out of 158 or so countries in the world. Failed state, and failed state in that context is the context of countries, nations that are the brink of dividing, right? So if you look at these indicators, you see that we are increasingly more divided as a people than united. And thanks to what the president is doing, because like I like to say, it seems that what we have is not a president but a presidency. A lot of people with cabals and intentions running the affairs of government. Because, for example, on the Twitter ban, you have the Minister of Information, Minister Lai Mohammed, being the one coming to make a statement on the Twitter ban, whereas the most appropriate agency to do that would have been the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, in that context. And then the minister does not even have the powers to be able to do that. Even the president does not have the powers to just make a statement without a proper, bill that is passed in the House or some kind of executive order that is tentatively to be ratified by, the National Assembly to the effect of, that kind of situation. Because we must understand, Twitter is not an artificial person in Nigeria. Twitter is not registered in any African country. Twitter is registered as a company in the US. So trying to treat Twitter like a company, you are kicking out a company out of your country, is not the most appropriate analogy. Because the federal government does not even have powers over companies, artificial persons that are not registered in the country. So what Twitter really is a platform, is a tool. And as a tool, it provides for freedom of expression, largely. A recent statistics show that in 24 hours, Nigeria economically, when you take out the estimates, that lost close to 2.1 billion from the whole informal and formal economy that happens around Twitter, which also violates the social economic rights of the people by banning it. The African Charter of People and Human Rights, which is stated in Nigeria and ratified by Nigeria, provides for social economic rights of the people. So the best option now is to go to court on the subject, but the courts are on strike. So now we are left with the courts of public opinion, and there might be pending protests come June 12th, which is Nigeria's official democracy day.
Let me ask this question, if I may. Amidst everything, there's a very dismal picture you've painted about the economy of Nigeria. Let me just ask, what part would you say COVID and its ramifications have played in this downturn and the negative issues that you say or you've mentioned regarding the economy of Nigeria?
Pardon, could you repeat that, please?
Yes. How has COVID affected Nigeria economically?
Oh, significantly. Significantly. GDP, the COVID situation really has affected, GDP in terms of even the day-to-day living of the average Nigerian. It was during the COVID crisis that we had the lootings of after the EndSARS protest, and then during the EndSARS protest, the government was accused of sending out thugs to scare the EndSARS protesters. But the EndSARS protesters also had volunteer private security agencies who were willing to help out, in the situation until the Lekki crisis that happened, and then led to, to the burning action and all that happened afterwards. So the key context is the fact that economically there's a downturn, but that is not peculiar to Nigeria, right? It's a global challenge. The GDP of many countries are taking a dive towards the deep, and most countries are beginning to even drive a digital revolution to get their young people become digital natives, in such a way that they can also leverage the opportunities in the digital space. We're not seeing a lot of that happening with the government. What we are rather seeing is a government that seems to hear the truth from the left ear and the truth from the right ear, because somehow there's nothing in between to hold the truth in their minds, and it's quite pathetic.
It is.
And so that's the core challenge. The distrust is massive, and come June 12th, there might be pending protests, because there is, Twitter is a channel for people to say both the sense and the nonsense. And human beings want to vent.
Yes.
And so if you take away that platform from them to vent,
they'll find another
look for
way.
other means to vent.
Yeah.
And that was what happened also with COVID. With the EndSARS protest. People were indoors for a long time, and they didn't trust the government to do what was right by the government. And that led to young people coming out, in terms of molestations by the police force and all that, becoming the bane of the EndSARS protest. So basically, things are not, to call a spade, things are not. I remember when before the president got into office, right? So I was at a program to speak at the university where they invited me at the University of Ibadan. That's some weeks before he got into office. And I asked him, because this party is the party that uses broom. Their logo is a broom. And I asked him that your campaign has been around corruption and fighting corruption. I hope when your party is using the broom to sweep away corruption from Nigeria, you're also getting a packer to pack it so that breeze does not blow back corruption. Interestingly, the president's slogan has been around corruption and fighting corruption. But so far, so good. Political corruption is on the increase in Nigeria. So you really wonder whether the president, is sleeping one or not.
With such a scenario, such as the one you've actually clearly painted, how then, or is it really then fair to actually blame the president for all the woes that are currently in Nigeria? Would you not say that some of these things are even beyond his reach as a president?
Oh, yes. I think it's fair to say that, it is not just about the president. But then, first thing, a leader is a dealer in hope, right?
Yes.
So the president on that chord has largely failed to inspire hope in the Nigerian people. From the beginning of his tenure, when he did not particularly address certain key policy issues, and people started withdrawing their funds from Nigeria because they didn't want a situation where he would make a policy that will get their funds stuck in the country. So during that time, when you go to the Security Exchange Commissions, you see a significant drop in the 6 months of his office of foreign direct investment in the country. And that was because people had a mindset of his approach to governance and didn't want to get caught in that approach, right? And so what he could have done was inspire hope immediately he got into office. To say, look, we want your investment, inspire some hope in the people. And that failure to inspire hope led to a deep dive in the economy of Nigeria, even before COVID-19, right? And so, to a large extent, the president has failed in the context of inspiring hope. And the Twitter tweet also goes to that effect. You can as well have used that tweet to inspire hope in the people, but he rather used it to threaten a section of the people, and that is quite unacceptable in that context. Now, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that as a leader, the buck stops at your desk. So to a large extent, it's just that African countries, we don't have a culture of a politician, being shamed and deciding to step down from office and say, look, I would rather resign honorably. We don't have that culture. Because at this point in time, look, the president campaigned on anti-corruption. So far, so good. Let's even score him on those things he campaigned on, right? To be fair, security has worsened in the country. In terms of corruption, the corruption index has increased significantly. Human rights, in fact, the media has been much more oppressed. We've never had a free media. My thesis is that Nigeria, many countries, in developing worlds, do not really have a free media. Because what you largely see is that the political elite either own the media houses or they are the largest patronizers of media in terms of adverts. So we've not really had a free media in that context. But in this context now, the media, I really sympathize with the media in Nigeria, because if Twitter, that is not a company in Nigeria, dealt with in such high-handed manner for a tweet that violated their own community rules in their house, that is signed onto by contract. I wonder what is then happening with media houses who are directly under the policy supervision of the Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation under this particular government.
Seems quite a lot is happening in that country. We'll be in touch with you again soon, Timmy, to understand what the next course of action is, what's happening in the management and the governance of Nigeria, and what the people of Nigeria are saying. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Okay.
Timmy Olagunju is a lawyer, he's a policy analyst. He's been joining us from Nigeria this morning. So if you listen to all those issues that are happening there in the country, in terms of getting to a point where a presidency issues a statement, and that statement is then deemed to be completely offensive to the people, it points to a serious breakdown somewhere. Because even without everything else, this is a statement coming from the presidency. And usually such statements will not just be tweeted just like that. There'll be somebody who sits down, who writes a statement, who releases a statement, and they have discussed it, and it has been vetted, and they've looked at it, and they have discussed the likely impact of this particular statement, the likely ramifications coming out of this, but going ahead and still releasing the statement.
Doing it anyway.
What does it indicate?
You know, when you talk about chickens coming home to roost, politically speaking, that is, one of the things that COVID has done, it has acted as an accelerator. It has brought very many things to a head for very many political leaders around the globe. Well, it has brought many things in the sense that those who've been able to manage the pandemic when it hit their shores have a rosy political future. Those who haven't are in the doldrums. Now, that having been said, it doesn't mean that before COVID came to the shores of all the countries on this planet, there were no problems. No. The problems were there. But listening to Timmy, I couldn't help but draw parallels at just how similar Nigeria is to our country. How really very, very, very similar. Because he's talking about, he didn't use the word cartels. That's our favorite word in the country. But they are cartels.
He said cabal, actually.
Yes, he used the word cabal.
Yeah.
Yes, which actually has more weight because cabal has extremely. The indication is that group is not just a group; it's a nefarious group
with tentacles deep.
Yes, and it's a group whose intentions are never good. Not sometimes good, never good, never good. So when I think about that, and I think about what it is that is being done. He gave the examples of the person who makes statements. Says they ought to be the Minister for Communication, but it's the Minister of Education, which tells me that is the person who's seen to be in closer proximity
to the
president, and he's part of that cabal. This, unfortunately, is not good news for that particular country.
It isn't. Aman is on the line. Good morning.
Good morning. Second time, guys, bear with me, but this is a topic that's close to my heart about big tech. And that is that I think we need really serious regulations around big tech because when they're doing things in your favor that you appreciate, you're like, yeah, that's great. But many times they do things very selectively. This has happened in the U.S. throughout, the admin of Trump and even Obama, depending on where the big tech is persuaded to be. Normally they tend to be Democratic, belong to the Democratic Party. And so they have a colored vision of anything that maybe a Republican or anybody else might say, and they just block you off. And apart from that, just recently, within the last 3 weeks or so, Facebook was having issues with the Australian government because the Australian government wanted to charge them or, thinking of charging them for content. Yeah, because the content comes from media houses like yourselves. And they didn't like it, and they just closed Facebook down without any notice whatsoever. Australians woke up and found no
they
Facebook.
They did not have Facebook.
Yes. Yeah. Very arbitrary. Yeah, and so I'm totally against the way they behave. Like Twitter now has blocked Trump for life. Come on. Yeah. Which crime did Trump commit? Yeah, that has objectively been verified that would allow such a thing to happen.
I'm with you on this. It gets to a point where, yes, you're championing that your platform encourages freedom of speech. But then you also say that if you feel offended by something that has been posted by somebody, another member, another user, you can report. But how then do you determine whether what this person has actually reported is indeed offensive or to what extent it has become offensive, or whether somebody else does not find it offensive?
Exactly. And then apart from that, even religious sites, many times they block them because they don't care for whatever it is the religious people are saying. For instance, if you're, let's say, gay, all right, and it says, you probably go to hell because you don't repent, they'll block you. And even things like you could talk about demons and devils. Many times you just find it won't go. Your post won't go. It just blocks. It's just hanging around somewhere. So really, they are kings unto themselves. They are lords unto themselves, and this must stop.
Amani,
and it's even with,
if I may ask you, if I may please,
Yes.
Wouldn't it be better to look for a platform that allows you to talk about demons freely?
Look for another one.
No.
This one they said they don't want.
It cannot be. Because they're monopolies.
Exactly.
They're basically monopolies. And how monopolies operate is that they actually cut out other people even coming into the market system. Yeah, and when you have monopolies, doesn't matter whether it's the normal business, whether it's somebody making mabatis or whatever it might be, the rules are very different because people know that they can manipulate everything in their favor and block out people when they feel like it. So because they are monopolies and because they are so powerful, there has to be certain regulations that may not apply to the general smaller people, so to speak. Even Microsoft, when they were so big, when every operating system had to be. Yes, thank you. Yep. That is it, Eric.
You know, I understand what you're saying, but I don't use Twitter. So I'm wondering, and I communicate quite well with the people I want to communicate with. Why are people insisting on using a platform that they find offensive?
Even in this country, there's laws and regulations on how to control monopolies. Remember the whole issue that was there some time back with the telco giants, with the smaller players in the telco industry in this country complaining that one of them has monopolistic tendencies. And they were raising issues about that.
And the issues had merit.
Yes.
I agree.
It's the same thing. Amani, thank you. I think we'll have a conversation about these monopolies.
Please do. Yeah, very important.
Asante sana for your call this
guys,
morning. Have a lovely one.
Thank you, dude. Blessed day again. Bye.
Asante. What?
So you call the person, why must you tweet?
Find another platform. If you want to say those things, go and erect a podium somewhere with a microphone and go and talk to them. This is my house. I make the rules.
Or if you're having difficulties, post a letter.
Use the post office. Go to another social media platform that allows you to do your thing.
There's the other one. Facebook.
It also did the same thing. They start now working as a cabal.
Yes.
And they all decide, you know what, we are going to change governments. We are going to make sure that we amplify the tweets that are talking negatively about a certain regime so that regime appears to be looking like it's running out of favor. And any tweet that has been tweeted in support of that regime is de-amplified, so to speak. Anyway, today's proverb as we say goodbye.
You can't turn the wind. So, turn the sail.
God bless you.
And that is exactly what Good Luck Jonathan and the people of Australia and others have done.
Good luck, Jonathan.
Not good luck. The people of Australia with Facebook and President Muhammadu Buhari in Nigeria. Thank you for tuning in. Have a lovely day. See you tomorrow. It's 10 a.m.